Father Ray, Reese Youngin. Come on, man. Fuck a Pan-African, fuck a Pan-African, fuck a Pan-African, fuck a Pan-African. Hey, you niggas trash like some ooh. Try to get back to them slaves. Hey, hey. Try to get back to them slaves. Hey, hey. Fucking slave narrative, they phony. I had this nigga named Toby and he owe me. When the plot crop and the stock drop on top, them niggas going. Sold to the bitter cotton pickers, them my niggas. I'ma come down, feed them chitlins and them gizzards. Nigga, I'm the mister, I whip ya, I kill you. In the big house, go down with your sister. Send it back to you, then I send for your mother. Y'all niggas look out, I'ma work you like no other. Make you pick cotton till the sun come and touch you. Till your damn hands and feet, your foot all bust up. Look me in my eyes, I'ma backhand the buck up. Nah. Shout out to Grandma Foo. Why your man came, she the one that sold you. My crew swam to the show and got you. Good shit, Jesus, man, that nigga came through. Hey, fuck a Pan-African, fuck a Pan-African, fuck a Pan-African, fuck a Pan-African. Hey, the niggas trash like some ooh. Trying to get back to them slaves. Hey, trying to get back to them slaves. Fuck off it, fuck Lennon, fuck Jeffries, ayy. Fuck off it, fuck Ben, fuck Jeffries, ayy. Fuck off it, fuck Lennon, fuck Jeffries, ayy. Ayy. Play with this shit, dude. Begin it. Yo, so, PC, the acrobatic.
Shout out to the mama chief. Yeah, you be quiet when Big Mama speak. What she gave us is a part of me. It flows through my arteries. Even on that journey, that love grows how the garden be. The first to teach us when we sick, the first to heal us. Mama's boy, yeah, you know, her pride and joy. Soul food, yeah, you know, I'm an enjoy. Calm you down just by the sound of her voice. There isn't another feeling inside when they cheering you on at your game and you feeling the pride. You and your siblings fighting, she gon' make you put them feelings aside. She can't lead you down the road, but she can give you the guide. Where you think I get that blissful look in my eyes? I need a side of ice cream with Bim's apple pie. You know for sure for Mama Chief, you know I'ma ride. Cause we all need our Mama Chiefs. Yeah, we all love our Mama Chiefs. The greatness, the patience, the foundation, the knowledge passed down so many generations, our motivation. I just wanna thank you for my creation. Cause we all love our Mama Chiefs. Yeah, we all need our Mama Chiefs. Yeah, we all ride for Mama Chief. The dedication, I seen your tears at my graduation. Now look, Ma, your boy that made it. You the reason I'm one of the greatest. Yeah, cause we all need our Mama Chiefs. Yeah, we all love our Mama Chiefs. Yeah, we all ride for Mama Chief. Now be quiet, let Big Mama speak.
Hey, peace and love to all the Aboriginal Indigenous Indians. Hope you all are doing well. Coming to y'all with another situation, okay? I hope everyone's good. Everything's good at home, in life, with the family. And I wish you all much love. So, I came back through because I meant to touch on this particular situation that's going on over there in Minnesota right now, you know, where there has been a huge influx of Somalian people, you know, taking over. So I'm going to just shout out to this young brother, Brandon Lehman. And yeah, I'm going to just get straight into it.
City of Minneapolis. I used to call Minneapolis. Somalis have officially taken over the city of Minneapolis. I used to call Minneapolis Little Somalia.
Imagine being able to
Sorry,
build a house
y'all.
with your name on it. just by thinking about it.
If they was gonna hit me up with the commercial one way or another.
Somalia in jest, but it's not a joke. It is the official statement coming from the city's mayor, and I'll show you guys that clip in this video. But now that their takeover is complete and it's too late to stop it, they are no longer hiding their true intentions. At a rally for Ilhan Omar, they publicly admit that they have no interest in the people of Minnesota. Hell, they have no interest in the people of America. Their only allegiance and the only people they care about are the people of Somalia. As always, like the video and subscribe to the channel. Make sure you guys watch to the end because I have an insane bonus clip for you. But don't take my word for how they feel. Let's watch this clip from Ilhan Omar's rally.
xildhibaan ilhaan cumar oo magaca Soomaaliya qalin dahab ah ku qortay qadiyadda ilhaan ma aha qadiyad ilhaan ma aha qadiyad Minnesota ma aha qadiyad reer Mareykan qadiyadda ilhaan waa qadiyad Soomaaliyeed guusha ilhaan waa guusha Soomaaliyeed waxayna noo ximbaarsan tahay macno weyn.
The American left's obsession with multiculturalism and virtue signaling has created a situation where a sitting member of the United States Congress is pledging allegiance to a foreign nation. I wanted to show that clip first because everything else in this video will make so much more sense. They have no appreciation for our country and no intention on assimilating into American life and giving back and contributing to their fellow countrymen because they don't see Americans as their countrymen. They are in Minneapolis city government, Minnesota state government, and United States federal government with the sole intent of passing legislation that takes American taxpayer money and direct it exclusively to the pockets of Somalis. But let's check out this disturbing next clip of the mayor of Minneapolis, who is whiter than mayonnaise, bending the knee to the Somali population and declaring that Minneapolis, a once great American city, is now Somalian territory.
Maaga Egawa Jacob Fry, Doke Magalada, Minneapolis. Damaan, Shaabka Somaliyed, Kayamid, Mogadishu, Garowe, Hargeisa, Bosaso, Bedabo, Kismayo, Wahan Rabah in An Idin Shego, Minneapolis, Wa Magaladina, Wahad Kamid Tihin Laf Dabarka, Magaladan Ka Digesa.
The left hates American values, American tradition, American history so much and believe our destruction is so justified that they are happily aligning with people who publicly boast about their allegiance being to a foreign nation that plan to steal as much American tax money as possible to enrich themselves because their goal is, has, and always will be the prosperity of Somalia. But it's not enough that they've successfully leveraged liberal white guilt to get the mayor to submit to them. They must install one of their own to further cement Somali control within the state of Minnesota. We recently covered their socialist mayoral candidate, Omar, I'm the captain of this boat now, Fateh. I'll throw his picture up on screen as a quick reminder. But now, unsurprisingly, Omar is under investigation for money laundering and corruption for introducing legislation in the Minnesota state government that would direct taxpayer funds to his wife's organization. Take a look.
A CARE 11 investigation into Minnesota's troubled housing stabilization program, already exposed for widespread fraud, now reveals an unexpected connection to candidate and state senator Omar Fateh.
We did discover something raising what a legal expert labels serious ethical concerns. Senator Omar Fateh's wife was a listed owner of a housing stabilization company, even as the senator and current Minneapolis mayoral candidate himself was pushing legislation to fast-track client approvals for the taxpayer-funded program.
Senator Fateh, Senate File 2741.
A bill that will address a critical delay in access to housing stabilization services, also known as HSS.
It's March 24th, 2025, and Senator Omar Fateh is the sole author of a bill he says will speed up access for people to be approved for HSS. What was not known at the time was that Senator Fateh had an undisclosed tie to the HSS industry. Does this raise any red flags?
It raises lots of red flags.
Political science professor David Schultz has taught ethics for 25 years. He says what raises red flags is that Senator Fateh's wife, Keltoum Mohammed, was a founder and owner of Community Development Services, LLC, an HSS company.
This is a situation where I think almost anybody schooled in, government ethics 101 would know that you can't introduce legislation that benefits yourself.
This is the end goal of the liberal philosophy that America is an illegitimate country. The land was stolen. Our wealth was gained through exploitation. Their self-worth comes from a competition amongst each other of who hates themselves the most. And the end result of this disturbing competition is the celebrating and pedestalizing of people who openly want to rob the American people for as much as they can and enrich a country they allegedly had to flee from. Minnesota is plagued by Somalis defrauding welfare and social programs, as you just saw from the mayoral candidate of the state's biggest city. But Democrats keep allowing it. In fact, they're encouraging it in the name of white guilt and compassion and equity. They actually stole over $200 million from the state of Minnesota that were meant for food programs to feed hungry children. That's how unscrupulous they are. Take a look.
Tonight, another man charged in the Feeding Our Future meal fraud case. A man federal prosecutors say played a big role in funneling millions of dollars in taxpayer money out of the country. Lou Raguse has a look at the brand new charges today.
The 74th person to be charged in the $300 million Feeding Our Future meal fraud case, Ahmed Naji Sheikh, is the brother of one of the most notorious defendants, Abdi Aziz Farah, who was recently sentenced to 28 years in prison. Farah was convicted with a group of others of stealing $50 million of taxpayer money. Now his brother Sheikh is accused of helping him launder that money.
Now, in any normal country, this would cause a major backlash from the native population. But liberals actually want this. This is the greatest form of social justice. And anyone else who dares to speak out against programs getting robbed that are meant to feed hungry children are silenced and called bigots and racist and intolerant. And when you understand the entire game plan, it starts to make sense. Did you guys know that 25% of Somalia's GDP comes from remittance, money being sent from the United States to Somalia? So the strategy is to steal money from the American taxpayer, give Somali residents free housing, free food, free school, free healthcare, give them such a comfortable lifestyle that they can afford to have 4 or 5 children, while the native-born population struggles to have 1, 2 if they're lucky. And then as their population outgrows the native population, they have more political power. And then they can enact legislation that exclusively benefits Somali people. And the money that's not exclusively for them, they can just steal it through fraud. And the more money they get, the more they send back to Somalia, because that is their goal. You heard the guy say it at the Ilhan Omar rally. But speaking of Ilhan Omar, someone who openly hates America and declares her allegiance for a foreign country, here she is going to a church and berating a bunch of white people for liking Charlie Kirk, a man who stood up for America instead of Somalia.
I do believe those of you who are interested in rewriting this hateful man's history are full of shit.
Thank you.
It is despicable that church would allow her to do that. And what's up with white liberals loving foreigners, telling them how evil they are for caring about their country? Ilhan Omar knows that their plan has succeeded. They have successfully beat the residents of Minnesota into ideological submission. Minnesotans, I guess, have just adopted the belief that their sole purpose in life is to serve the interests of Somalia. And Charlie Kirk, a man who stood up for America and American values, has to be characterized as an evil, awful person. And that's why Ilhan Omar goes on CNN, mocks Charlie Kirk's death, and says he belongs in the dustbin of history. Watch.
What I find jarring is that there's so many people willing to excuse the most reprehensible things that he said, that they agree with that they're willing to have monuments for him, that they want to create a day to honor him, and that they want to produce resolutions in the House of Congress honoring his life and legacy. It is one thing to care about his life, because obviously so many people loved him, including his children and wife. But I am not going to sit here and be judged for not wanting to honor any legacy this man has left behind. That should be in the dustbin of history, and we should hopefully move on and forget the hate that he spewed every single day.
Ilhan Omar believes that she embodies true American values, which are socialism, a deep hatred of Western civilization, a scalding contempt for white people and Christianity, an acquiescence and obeisance to the people of the third world. And because Charlie Kirk got people to understand that maybe it isn't such a great idea to import people from the third world who openly hate our country and are trying to destroy it, he's a bad, evil, racist man who belongs in the dustbin of history. Got it. She's upset that Charlie Kirk believed the American dream was for American people, not the people of Somalia. Liberals imported millions of people into this country who hate us, who told us desiring cultural unity was racist, who told us expecting people to assimilate into our culture was white supremacist bigotry. And now these people have amassed political power in cities throughout America. Here's the bonus clip I promised you guys. A Muslim man in Dearborn, Michigan, a city, by the way, that put Arabic on the official police department badges, openly admits that their goal is an Islamic takeover of America and instituting Sharia law. Watch this.
We haven't done anywhere near enough. And the people here, I promise you, we do feel ashamed. We do feel like we're not doing enough. We do feel like change needs to come, because change must come. And in the form that it must come is that this empire, the American empire that's been hurting our people since the beginning, the imperial Western powers that have been hurting our people since the beginning, they must fall. And inshallah they will fall. And my message to the people of Gaza and the oppressed peoples across the world is that there are people here, both young and old, who are going to be willing to fight and are willing to put their lives and everything they can on the line to bring these empires down, because they must come down.
Their goal has always been the destruction of the West. Look at all of Europe. European countries are now having a problem with Muslim areas of their cities being patrolled by private cars maintaining Sharia law, calling them Muslim areas where their rules, their laws have to be followed. And American liberals are aligning with these people because they hold the same beliefs. The implication that some cultures are incompatible with Western civilization was met with strict and harsh criticism and condemnation. You weren't allowed to say it. You had to adopt the belief that Western culture was bad, that white people were bad, that our country's prosperity built by our ancestors is actually the property of every single other person on planet Earth besides us. And even now, with their brazen openness about wanting to destroy America, about having allegiance to Somalia, there's nothing we can do about it because these are legal citizens. They exploited the compassion and welcoming nature of America to infiltrate it from within and steal everything that they possibly can before they finally bring the country to its knees. And that's how you have a situation where the mayor of Minneapolis is now giving entire speeches in Somalian. But let me know what you guys think down in the comment section below. If you enjoyed the video, make sure you hit that like button. Make sure you subscribe to the channel if you haven't already.
That is the sound of freedom. A lush and rugged expanse about 130 miles south of Atlanta, just shy of 97 acres. It's undeveloped, unincorporated, and it has new owners.
It feels amazing. It feels really amazing. I cry every time I come here.
Renee Walters is one of them. She's president of the Freedom Georgia Initiative. It's a collective of 19 Black families who recently bought this land. This dream all started a few weeks ago during Renee's typical morning call with her friend Ashley Scott.
She said, Ashley, did you see the article about Toomsboro for sale?
It turns out that the entire small town was never for sale, just a bundle of a few dozen homes and buildings. So Ashley, a real estate agent, looked for listings in the area and found one for this.
And it was just such a beautiful piece of land. It was affordable, and it just made sense that we could create something that would be amazing for our families.
Why were these two women interested in the prospect of buying a town in the first place?
It really was a when we saw what happened with Ahmaud Arbery and George Floyd and Breonna Taylor and the protests.
We both have Black husbands, we both have Black sons, and I was starting to get overwhelmed and have a sense of anxiety when my husband would leave the house to go to work.
So watching our people protesting in the streets, while it is important, and I want people to stay out in the streets, bringing attention to the injustices of Black people, we needed to create a space and a place where we could be a village again, a tribe again.
So Renee and Ashley reached out to family and friends, and together they bought what they intend to name Freedom, Georgia, a new Black city.
We don't intend for it to be exclusively Black, but we do intend for it to be pro-Black in every way.
Jessica Gordon-Amard is an economist and an expert on Black collectives.
I've found tremendous benefits to individuals, families, and the communities that are involved in it, including, the economic stability and prosperity, but also leadership development, social capital development, other kinds of human capital development. And so it's really a win-win for everybody involved to be involved.
The owners hosted the Big Black Campout over Labor Day weekend. Supporters drove in from across the country. The plan is to introduce farming next, create a lake for sustainable fishing, facilities for recreation, and eventually develop a fully operational, expanded city.
By being able to create a community that is thriving, that is safe, that has agriculture and commercial businesses that are supporting one another, and that dollars circulating in our community, that is our vision. And to be able to pass this land down to my children and to the children that are represented by each of our 19 families as a piece of legacy. We're hoping to create legacy.
Now to another.
Have been done without everybody here. With that being said, I'm getting ready to vote, and there's a theme in Queens, and I know Nas is a part of this. Queens get the money. Sorry, Jay-Z, we win again. I just had to rub that in. You can let the Brooklyn Borough president know that I send my regards to him. With that being said, I vote aye.
Borough president votes in an aye, and some conflict will be brewing. I'll move a little away from you. Next up is myself, representing myself as the state assemblywoman in this district. I have to say this has been an opportunity of my professional career as the assemblywoman.
What's up, everybody? This is the world famous Ed Lover, and you are watching Forgotten Kings TV. That's right, Forgotten Kings TV. Come on, son.
What I'm hearing that your boy Nas, he made an announcement a couple of hours ago. He's saying his casino in Queens has been approved, man, in a unanimous vote. Okay, this comes just 1 week after Jay-Z and Roc Nation lost their $5.4 billion Times Square casino bid in a 4-2 vote. Okay. Now, apparently, someone was heard saying, "Sorry, Jay-Z, we win again." I just had to. Let's this is crazy. Let's play this clip, y'all, right quick.
Okay.
The question of whether to advance the application to the Gaming Facility Location Board has received 6 positive votes, meaning the application has been approved. Now,
With that being said, I'm getting ready to vote, and there's a theme in Queens, and I know Nas is a part of this. Queens get the money. Sorry, Jay-Z, we win again. I just had to rub that in. You can let the Brooklyn Borough president know that I send my regards to him. With that being said, I vote aye.
Borough president votes in an aye, and some conflict will be brewing.
Yeesh. Talk to me, King. That's how we giving it up now.
Damn. More algorithm smoke.
That's what I'm saying. Hold on.
We met the standard and then some. And the only
This is crazy. That energy in that room is completely different. You know what I'm saying? Than the other video. Let's play this right quick.
Let's
This is
get
how
it.
it was when Jay-Z and them wanted to get their casino greenlit. And this is wild. Check this out.
You know it. We met the standard and then some. And the only one with courage to stand up is the governor and the mayor appointees. And everybody else runs and hides. Go run and hide. Because what you did, the benefits you denied this community and this city and state, you have to live with that history forever.
Woo! All right, y'all. Let me slow down because I just kind of start going. So boom, the first video, as you all know, there's a lot going on in the state of Minnesota. There's a huge Somali influx. You know, I mean, that's just kind of why I was really just showing the video of him speaking about it. Like, did y'all find that interesting to see that mayor speaking a Somalian language? I mean, I thought it was just diabolical. And when we talk about what's best for us here in America, what's best for the American Indians, the ones that are known as Negroes and Blacks and African Americans, like what type of state does this put us in? Because I think the issue is a lot of times is that we can see these things right up under our nose happening. Like, people are coming in, they're able to basically be over top of our people, and then it seems like there's no what's that? There's no type of scrutiny, if you will, for that type of behavior. I mean, I know he was stating that they're now, like, most of them are legal citizens, but we don't know if these people are really truly legal citizens or not. I know that there was a huge scam going on out there in Minnesota too with the Somalian women and them claiming to be single mothers and getting TANF and food stamp benefits, different things like that. I just think that I found that so profound. Shout out to Carper Goddess. And it's just really a lot going on. And we do have a lot that we got to really, that we are really against. You know, there's been a lot of conversations around, you know, where should we invest our money? Should we invest our money in somewhere else, like, and not into our American homeland? And, you know, what would be more lucrative, more valuable? I'm like, well, in this day and age, we see a lot of people leaving their respective homelands, whether that be from any one of those 54 countries in Africa. They're coming to America. They're able to set up shop. They're able to build an economic flow for themselves, own businesses, able to come over with 700, 800 credit scores, and are able to do so much more than we could possibly ever dream of. Now, there has been some improvements in what I would call so-called Black business. There has been a rise in that. I mean, I think that the problem is that there's more room, it seems, for these folks than it is for the people who are of this land, who built this land. I'm not sure that I would ever agree with any type of efforts to go over into another country and build their infrastructure, build their country up, instead of us being able to come up with a way that we can come together and acquiesce the benefits here. I think it's a problem when we talk about investment and business and what would be more lucrative. You know, I think that we forget about our home base. People like to use the rhetoric around Black Wall Street. They like to say, well, you know, they blew up Black Wall Street. They did this, they did that. I think all of those are excuses. And I think a lot of times we are just scared to pick up economically and get somewhere. That's why I showed that example of the Black American 70 families, or so-called Black American 70 families, who went and bought the 500 acres of land and are trying to build that up. But I do got some more information on that. And I also wanted to show Nas because, him being able to get his casino approved, that's an amazing thing. I think that at the same time, we have to consider the type of odds that are at play, like what type of people are in power to make certain decisions on the behalf of a city and its people. And I think that we are in a really, really tough situation, family. So I'm just trying to piece it all together for myself ultimately, and just trying to get a better understanding and, maybe take it all in, because it's really a lot. So let's go back to what's happening over in Minnesota. And shout out to Copper Goddess for putting me up on game with what was taking place out there. So this says, breaking. Residents of Dearborn, Michigan complained that mosques were blasting their calls to prayer at 5:30 a.m., violating city ordinances. It says the city admitted that the mosques were breaking the law, but chose to do nothing. Islam is not compatible with Americans.
In East Dearborn are now at times waking us up at 5:30 in the morning with the call to prayer.
This is Dearborn resident Andrea Unger at last night's city council meeting, stating that mosques using outdoor loudspeakers for their call to prayer should not be allowed, and says she believes it's not supposed to be allowed per city ordinance.
The noise complaints have been made out and the police have made numerous visits. What is the next step?
There was some question whether or not any outdoor loudspeakers are allowed, something that was not clarified, only that more evidence is being gathered. But CBS Detroit did examine Dearborn's noise ordinance and found that loudspeakers between the hours of 10 p.m. and 7 a.m. are in violation of the ordinance.
But the mosques in East Dearborn are now at times waking us up at 5:30 in the morning with the call to prayer.
This is Dearborn resident Andrea Unger.
So as you all can see, just going back to the Minnesota conversation, that it is a lot going on out there right now. And it's really a lot that people have to go through. I mean, not just the so-called Black Americans, but also, other people who are being disturbed by people's way of life, religion, and their theories of thought. And it is just a lot. I think that it's important that when people decide to come to this country and they decide that they're going to set up shop and build life here, that the life that is here is respected. And I think that that is not respected in context to American traditions and values and what that looks like and what that means. I mean, having a bullhorn out there blowing on the roof is really diabolical work. Diabolical. All right. So real quick before I go back to Nas. So now this is an update on that. So we were hearing, so they're saying it didn't go well. So let's see what they're talking about.
And investor Renee Walters came across the opportunity to purchase land in Toomsboro, Georgia. They saw more than just property for sale. They envisioned a sanctuary for Black families, a tangible manifestation of the social justice and unity they had long advocated. For $1,700,000, they could transform a 97-acre plot into a thriving community that prioritized safety, empowerment, and cultural solidarity. This ambitious endeavor, known as the Freedom Georgia Initiative, has since captured national attention, sparking conversations about self-determination, collective resilience, and the complexities of building a new community. For both Scott and Walters, the vision for freedom was born out of deep personal concerns. We both have Black husbands. We both have Black sons. And I was starting to get overwhelmed with anxiety whenever my husband left the house for work, Walters explained. Against the backdrop of heightened racial tensions and nationwide protests against systemic injustice, they sought a proactive solution. What can we do? Walters asked herself. Then came a viral post about Toomsboro being up for sale. Although the entire town wasn't actually available, the uninhabited acreage surrounding it was. To Scott and Walters, this was the perfect opportunity to create a safe haven, a modern-day Black Wall Street that could foster unity, innovation, and economic empowerment. Under the Freedom Georgia Initiative, 19 Black families joined forces to purchase the land. Their goal was not only to build homes, but also to cultivate a village where Black families and their allies could thrive. For Scott, the mission was deeply personal. We needed to create a space and a place where we could be a village again, a tribe again. We wanted to create this safe space where we can address our own issues and concerns. Freedom, as the land is now called, is envisioned as a self-sustaining community prioritizing safety, cultural pride, and economic growth. While the initial purchase included an impressive array of amenities, such as an opera house, a school, a restaurant, and a gas station, the families focused their efforts on developing the uninhabited surrounding land into a residential and communal hub. Despite their aspirations, creating an exclusively Black city has proven to be a complex and legally fraught endeavor. While the families openly expressed their desire to establish a pro-Black community, they acknowledge the challenges of maintaining racial exclusivity. As Scott explained, it's impossible to have anything exclusively Black because our families are integrated. We are an integrated, tolerant, and diverse community, even as Black people. The founders emphasize that freedom is not about exclusion, but about fostering a space that uplifts and centers Black culture and values. They welcome individuals who align with their mission, regardless of race, as long as they share the community's goals and beliefs. However, achieving their vision requires navigating legal and constitutional barriers, including the U.S. Constitution's freedom of movement and prohibits discrimination, which guarantees freedom of movement and prohibits discrimination. To become an officially recognized city, freedom must meet certain legal requirements and refrain from policies that could be perceived as discriminatory. This includes adhering to federal and state regulations that ensure equal access and non-discrimination. A single lawsuit challenging the city's practices could derail its progress, posing a significant economic threat. One potential workaround would involve foregoing state and federal resources, such as public schooling, postal services, and government grants. However, such a move would significantly hinder the community's ability to provide essential services and infrastructure, especially in its early stages. The trade-off between autonomy and access to resources remains a central challenge for the founders. The Freedom Georgia Initiative's vision extends beyond land ownership. The founders have called on Congress to provide reparations for Black Americans, arguing that financial restitution is necessary to address historical injustices and systemic inequities. Through their Facebook page and other platforms, they advocate for reparations as a means to support initiatives like theirs and to empower Black communities across the country. While the group is optimistic about their long-term sustainability, they acknowledge the need for external support to fully realize their vision. From infrastructure development to community programs, the initiative's success will depend on a combination of grassroots efforts, private investments, and potential government assistance. The Freedom Georgia Initiative is not the first attempt to create a self-sustaining Black community. Historically, Black Americans have established prosperous enclaves, often in response to systemic exclusion and racial violence. One of the most famous examples is Greenwood, Tulsa's Black Wall Street, which thrived in the early 20th century before being destroyed in the 1921 Tulsa Race Massacre. Other examples include Nicodemus, Kansas, founded by formerly enslaved African Americans after the Civil War, and Mound Bayou, Mississippi, established in 1887 as an all-Black town. These communities exemplify the resilience and ingenuity of Black Americans in creating opportunities despite systemic barriers. However, they also highlight the challenges of sustaining such spaces in the face of external hostility and economic pressures. The Freedom Georgia Initiative's emphasis on tribalism has sparked debate about the balance between cultural solidarity and inclusivity. Critics argue that self-segregation undermines broader efforts to combat systemic racism and promote integration. However, supporters contend that creating safe, empowering spaces for marginalized groups is a necessary step toward healing and progress. Scott and Walters reject the notion that their initiative is exclusionary Instead, they frame it as a proactive response to systemic challenges, a space where Black families can thrive without fear or marginalization. This is about creating a space where we can breathe, where we can be ourselves, and where we can build a future for our children, Scott said. As freedom takes shape, the families involved are focused on building infrastructure and establishing a sense of community. Plans include residential housing, communal spaces, and sustainable agriculture. The initiative also prioritizes education, with the goal of creating schools that center Black history, culture, and excellence. Economic empowerment is another cornerstone of the vision. By fostering entrepreneurship and supporting Black-owned businesses, the founders hope to create a self-sustaining economy that benefits both residents and the surrounding region. Community events, cultural festivals, and cooperative initiatives are also planned to strengthen bonds among residents and celebrate Black heritage. The Freedom Georgia Initiative represents a bold experiment in self-determination and collective action. While the challenges are significant, the vision is inspiring. For Scott, Walters, and the families involved, freedom is more than a plot of land. It is a symbol of resilience, hope, and the power of community. As the initiative continues to evolve, it will serve as a case study in the possibilities and complexities of building.
You know, I always find myself getting extremely flustered when it comes down to talking about what it is that we got to do, how we supposed to move. And it's like, it's so many different ideas around how that needs to get done. I think that we do not have a steady focus on what has to take place. You know what I'm saying? In order to bring it to fruition, some of these things that they are speaking about, making sure our dollar circulates within our communities, making sure that we are able to educate our kids and provide agricultural benefits, being able to build on land and grow a community that will foster our well-being. I think that, I don't know if we're too far gone from that type of mentality. You know what I'm saying? Like, I think that, I'm telling you, like, I swear to God, y'all, every time this conversation comes around, it's always, well, they knocked this down, they knocked that down. We've never been able to sustain. I think that, we can't speak on something that happened 100 years ago. I think that if we don't continue to try and push for something, then we'll never know. We'll never know. And it's just an interesting situation to me. It is. I think that when it comes down to business and investments and economics, there's a lot of things that we need to learn. Hi, Greedy. Hi, Copper Goddess Juice, 305 War Chief, None of Your Business, Mama Chief, Tim Washington, Big Dog Philly OG, peace, my OG. Roger W, peace to you. Odu, peace to you. All right. I think that's everyone. T1 Production, peace. So peace to all the family, okay? So anyway, it's like I really want us to be able to figure out how do we get the correct footing, right? Because I hear so many different conversations like around what it is exactly that needs to be done. I know status correction, obviously being able to get back in tune with who we are as the true Indigenous American. I think all of that plays a role as well. Do y'all think people is scared to go out here and get together as one unit within respective cities and states and neighborhoods within our country to build and to organize? Like, are we scared to do that? Put a 1 in the chat if we scared. Well, put a 1 in the chat if we not scared. put a 2 in the chat if we are scared. Because my issue is that when I hear people talk about investing somewhere else, investing in lands and business in other countries, other foreign lands, when we don't even have our own backyard together. We have to have our own backyard together before we think that we can do anything, even on a momentous scale, such as going outside of our nation and trying to build somewhere else. See, some people would say, well, it's because of the fact that we're not allowed to do it here. And I would disagree with that. Give me 1 second, y'all, so I can pull this up real quick on Google. I see 1, 2 in the chat. Give me 1 second. So let's just look at and see. And I think sometimes too, when we look at the stats around Black-owned businesses, who's owning them, you know, they want to throw Africans in there too. And I think that that's just disproportionately fucking with the actual statistics of what it actually looks like. All right, give me 1 more second, y'all. 1 more. I mean, because I do have the Pew Research Center article that I want to show. But I still think that there's a situation at hand. So hold on. All right, so I'll just pull up Pew for the sake of what I'm trying to talk about. So boom, look at Black-owned businesses in the U.S. This came out February 12th, 2025. So it says more than 1 in 5 Black adults in the United States say owning a business is essential to their personal definition of financial success, according to 2023 Pew Research Center survey. While Black-owned businesses have grown significantly in the U.S. in recent years, they still make up a small share of overall firms and revenue, according to our analysis of federal data. In 2022, there were 194,585 U.S. firms with majority Black or African American ownership. That's up from 124,000 in 2017, according to the latest estimates from the annual business survey conducted by the U.S. Census Bureau and the National Science Foundation. So-called Black-owned firms' gross revenue soars by 66% during this time span, from an estimated $127.9 billion in 2017 to $211.8 billion in 2022. So, despite this growth, majority Black-owned businesses made up about 3% of all U.S. firms in 2022 that were classifiable by race and ethnicity of their owners, and they accounted for just 1% of gross revenue from all classifiable companies that year. By comparison, in 2022, roughly 14% of all Americans were Black. We gotta really get rid of that Black term. As has long been the case, white majority business owners made up the greatest share of classifiable firms, 84%, and their revenue, 92% in 2022. About 1 in 10 classifiable firms, 12%, had Asian American majority owners, and no more than 8% had majority owners from another racial or ethnic group. How many workers do Black-owned businesses employ? Black or African American majority owned firms employed roughly 1.6 million workers in 2022. The firm's annual payrolls were estimated at $61.2 billion. About 7 in 10 Black owned firms, 71%, had between 1 and 9 employees. Do y'all hear that? That's it. Much smaller shares had 10 to 49, 13%, or 50 or more, 3% workers that year. Another 13% had paid employees at the same time during the year, but reporting having none at the same time the survey was conducted. Whoa. What's the most common sector for Black-owned business? This is a good discussion. By far, healthcare and social assistance. Nearly 50,000 of the roughly 195,000 U.S. companies with majority Black or African-American ownership, or 26% of the total, were part of this sector in 2022. Looked at a different way, 8% of all classifiable U.S. business in the healthcare and social assistance sector were majority Black-owned that year. So the other sectors include professional, scientific, and technical services, comprising about 14% of all Black-owned businesses, transportation and warehousing, 9%, administrative support and waste management and remediation services, 8%, retail trade, 7%, accommodation and food services, 7%. So is there an issue with what type of businesses that we are trying to own? Now, when we decide we want to own a business or invest in a business or whatever the case may be, are we truly thinking about what's lucrative, or is this about the love of it? I mean, I see like the high number in social services being 22% and healthcare being 22%. But it's kind of like, is this, I guess, is this, yeah, like I said, is this lucrative for us here in this nation at this point in time? I think that we need to go back to kind of in closing our businesses and closing off people who don't need to be involved. Now, I was listening to that video and they were saying like they're open to having other people and blah, blah, blah. That's the problem now. We're scared to speak on saying, hey, no, this is full so-called Blacks and only for so-called Blacks. This ain't for the rest of y'all. This is some FUBU shit that we on. Because I think that when we start to open it up, yeah, we'll take you little change and everything like that. But when it comes down to everything else, you know what I'm saying? Like, this needs to be inclusive to our people only. We should never accept any excuses for us not establishing ourselves with land, commerce, business, and trade. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, some of our people are afraid of freedom because a lot of responsibility comes with freeing ourselves. Absolutely. You know, and that's why I always want to know, what is the reason when people want to bring up, you know, taking, like I said, investment ventures elsewhere when we barely can invest in ourselves on our own homeland. Now, I hate when people always like to bring up several different examples of individual achievements. And I say individual achievements doesn't make up for the entire conglomerate. When we're talking about how much the dollar circulates in our community, 6 seconds is from what I was told. The dollar circulates in our community 6 seconds, where everybody else got like 30 days. And when I say everybody else, I'm talking about other groups of people. 6 seconds before our dollars that once hits our hands go hit another hand, and it's not coming back in and it's not recuperating itself. And then we wonder why we see ourselves on this interesting decline. Now, I want to find that video of Dr. Claude Anderson real quick. And shout out to Dr. Claude Anderson. He's still with us, right, y'all? So let's go here.
A point of self-determination by the year 2015 in your analysis.
That's right.
Why?
Why? Because at that time, about 7, 8 major things is going to wipe us out if we don't do something very quick about getting some power and wealth, rebuilding our communities, and being competitive. We also know we don't practice quid pro quo in politics, which means you got to say to your people in an election, what can you do for me, whether you're black or white, if I vote for you?
Right.
And presently the system is that since black folk are subordinate to and excluded from the system, we can only do what's mainstream. And if they do what's mainstream, nothing's going to happen for black folk. We have been the number 2 population in this country now for approximately 400 years. We're going to be pushed from number 2 down to number 4. Okay. Now, if you didn't get anything for 400 years when you're number 2, you figure what you're going to get when you become number 4.
Good evening and welcome to Detroit Black Journal. I'm your host, Daryl Wood. Coming up on this edition of the Journal, we will engage in a revealing interview with Dr. Claude Anderson, author of Black Labor, White Wealth. In part 1 of a 2-part discussion, we will find out why American public policy by design has created a permanent black underclass.
What I wanted to do, Daryl, in writing that book was 2 things. First of all, I wanted to send out a wake-up call to Black America. And secondly, I want to prove 3 things. First of all, is that are blacks in the predicament that we're in, and have we been in this predicament for 400 years because what's been told us, first of all, that it was by divine decree, or that it was genetically inherited, or was it really social engineering? And I went back and found out it's primarily social engineering.
For over 300 years.
And just so y'all know, this interview is from 1995. So in 1995, he was predicting by the year 2015, and now we're 10 years past 2015, right? That we would be a permanent underclass. I think a lot of that rings true. I think a lot of that rings true, especially after just reading those numbers about Black-owned business in America. It's not a lot. It's at a very low standard, and we have to figure out what it is that we are going to do to kind of combat that. I think that the social engineering is a great point, because when you're socially engineered to think a certain way, you're going to perform and act and do things accordingly. Like, you're not going to have as much confidence in your abilities of who you are. And then the race component, when we're talking about us as a people, the American Indians as the people, the so-called Black indigenous, us in particular, I think that there's a level of, and there's a certain type of thinking that we have, and it keeps us down. It keeps us down.
Blacks in America have been racially undermined by the government and barred from equal opportunity legally, politically, and economically. History shows blacks were the labor force responsible for the vast fortunes amassed in the United States and Europe in the 16th and 17th centuries. Thanks for joining me on this edition of the Journal. With me for this edition is Dr. Claude Anderson, author of Black Labor, White Wealth, and he is also president of the Harvest Institute. Dr. Anderson, thank you for joining us on this edition of the Journal.
Well, Daryl, thank you for having me here.
The Harvest Institute is a black think tank that has as its goal the reforming of American public policy as it relates to blacks.
That's correct. What we want to do is get about the business for the first time in the history of this nation, design a policy that is strictly devoted to the economic and social reform of Black America by giving them a national plan that would be proactive in resolving some of the major impediments and conflicts and developing broad racial strategies for dealing with white racism in this country.
A major thrust in that direction is the release of your new text, Black Labor, White Wealth. That book is incredible in the respect that it destroys myths, long-held fallacies, lies, and illuminates history and factuality as it relates to the Black condition in America. And by that, more specifically, the institutionalization of racism is exposed for what it really is in American society. You kick over some sacred cows in this book, don't you?
Yes, I do. And that was my primary purpose.
Why do they keep doing this?
The Black folk in the predicament they're in because of social engineering. And what's happened to us all this time, Daryl, is that we've got locked into the lowest status of a no-win monopoly game. That means that we've had wealth in this country redistributed or maldistributed based on skin color, going from the lightest to the darkest, lightest, yellow, brown, black. And the wealth has been skewed. So what happens in this country now is you got the white society controlling almost 100% of all the income, the wealth, the resources, the business, the corporations, the privileges, and all levels of government.
And therein lies the problem.
That's
for
your problem.
blacks.
And the issue is race and resources. And black folk don't have the wherewithal to change their conditions.
And the reason that they have not historically in America had access is because of the way as you point out in the book, the legal system has been stacked against us. The political system has been stacked against us. The access to real property, wealth, money, land has been prohibited by law.
That's
the
right.
Supreme Court has been used as an instrument against us.
And it's still being used as an instrument against you.
Explain that.
Because initially, when the Constitution was written, all the Constitution did was picked up the old public policy that had already begun on black folk. When black folk first arrived in this country in 1619, there was approximately 20 blacks. By 1634, the Maryland colony came into existence. That time you had about 40, 45 blacks in the country.
Mm-hmm.
By 1638, something very profound happened, Daryl, that every black person in this country needs to understand. Something very, very profound. What happened in 1638? The Maryland colony put out its first public edict. And what that edict said is that black folks shall never enjoy the fruits of white society. That is very key to what's been happening to you for 400 years. Message.
And that is written and established in American code. It
That's
has been
right.
codified as law. in
That's right.
America.
And so, and between that point, let's say about next 20 years, for instance, the European colonies were putting pressure on this country saying, hey, we didn't send you to America to have a good time, just enjoy yourself and sit back and relax. We sent you to relax. We sent you to America to produce some wealth, some resources for our European, continent. And most of the colonies were sending letters back saying, hey, we can't do anything in this country. We don't have the wherewithal. It would take us a lifetime to clear the forest, to move the bricks, to get rid of the snakes and rocks. And we need a labor force to do it. And at that point in time, the white society knew they had a need. So what happened, they brought together a very strong sense of community around that need and said, we got to find a way of resolving that problem. And they looked back at that public edict was put out in Maryland in 1638, which says black folks should never enjoy the fruits of white society. And they expanded it.
Right.
So by 1664, 1665, every colony in the United States enacted a slave law that says black folks shall now constitute a subordinated, excluded, uncompensated, non-competitive, managed workforce for the personal comfort and wealth building of white society. And that became your public policy that remained in existence up until recent times.
Why isn't that taught in public education now? Why don't we know that?
Because what happened immediately after that, all the institutions jumped in and all the nations of this country jumped in to justify slavery, enslaving the black folk. And so the religious institutions said, well, we have to base it on something. So they said, let's base it on Bible, on biblical principles. Message. Saying the Bible that the blacks were offshoot of Ham, so therefore God had decreed that black folks should be enslaved. And that stayed in effect for about maybe a couple of hundred years, about 100 and something.
What do y'all think about that? Because I know a lot of people that are like religious prone, they definitely speak on the curses of Ham and all of that other stuff. That's very interesting that he stated that. Now, real quick, y'all, before I go back to that good brother, Dr. Claude Anderson. Let's go back to these Somalis, because maybe we can get an understanding of how they got here, how they got in Minnesota, ended up taking over Minnesota, because that's still really mind-blowing to me that they were able to literally take over the way that they are. And we, as Dr. Claude Anderson put it, don't have the wherewithal to do it for ourselves. And I think that that's the problem. You know what I mean? Like I said, like I really do discourage talk around, let's go invest in Africa. Let's go invest here, invest there. No, the point is we need to be able to invest in our land together unilaterally.
Is its own kind of bubble universe. Once you cross Franklin, once you cross Riverside, you kind of exist in this place, and it's deeply beautiful that doesn't follow the rules of the rest of the city or the rest of reality.
Minnesota, known as the land of 10,000 lakes, is known for its over 14,000 bodies of fresh water, vast prairies, fertile farmland, and also its growing Muslim and African population.
When I grew up, I had friends of all different shades. Now you come up into the city, and really even a lot of little small towns, it seems to be a demographic shift to primarily Somalians.
It's definitely a lot of Somalis, but it don't affect me. I don't care.
Are they pretty friendly?
Yeah, they cool. They cool for the most part. They can't drive for shit, but they all right.
Now home to the largest Somali population in the U.S., Minnesota has garnered headlines not only due to the viral videos and stories from the state, but also the rapidly changing culture that some have categorized as a takeover of Minnesota.
Muslims around the world are celebrating Eid this weekend, and one of the biggest celebrations in the Western Hemisphere takes place here in Minnesota.
I am proud to announce today that during the month of Ramadan, we will be having the call to prayer broadcast.
Right now, we're blessed to have 3 Somali elected officials at the Capitol, and we work very closely together, and we carry each other's bills.
But was this just online exaggeration, or was this community of Somalis from a country over 8,000 miles away really taking over the state like the internet said? We went to the Cedar Riverside neighborhood of Minneapolis, also known as the Somali capital of America, to go find out.
Somali Street. Where in Somalia are you from?
Mogadishu.
Where are you from? Where are you from?
Somalian.
Which part?
South side.
South side of Somalia?
Yeah, Mogadishu. Yeah.
When did you come to the U.S.?
Oh, I come like 2000.
I'm from Somalia, but I gotta go to work right now.
What part of Somalia?
Mogadishu.
Mogadishu. When'd you get here?
I came here 1999.
Do you like the U.S.? How has it been?
It's not bad. It's good.
You guys call here this area Little Mogadishu?
Mm-hmm.
Are you sure?
Yes. Who said that?
Somebody was just, just following the ladies here and just keep saying, is this area is a Little Mogadishu?
No, that's not us. We've been asking people who live in the area about Somali culture, where they're from. So that's all we've been asking people.
You never guys, you guys never ask Little Mogadishu or something like that. No.
No, nothing like that.
Okay.
Where are you from?
I'm from Somalia.
From Somalia?
Little Mogadishu.
You're from Mogadishu, though.
No, I'm not.
Where are you from in Somalia?
I'm from Hargeisa.
Okay, how long have you lived here in Minneapolis for?
5 years.
How do you like it?
Love it.
You do?
Yeah.
Do you ever miss home?
Yeah, I'm going back there now.
To live or visit?
Visit.
To visit?
Yeah.
Yeah, we were just trying to learn about the culture here.
It's not important to learn. For some culture is different culture.
Do you ever miss home, or do you like being here in the U.S.?
I miss home actually.
Really?
Yeah.
Do you want to go back, or do you think you'll stay?
Going back this year.
You are?
Yeah.
Yeah, we like here, Minnesota. As you know, it's a lot of Somali. Yeah, state of Somalia. That's why.
So it reminds you of home, which is why you like it here.
Yeah, sometimes I miss home, but for real life, you have to work hard and you have to improve yourself. That's all.
After spending time in the neighborhood, we could see how drastically different this area was from other parts of Minneapolis. But how did the Somali population, which has now grown to an estimated 80 to 100,000 people, become so prominent here in Minnesota? Well, it all started with the Refugee Act of 1980, signed by President Jimmy Carter. This law created a formal system for admitting and resettling refugees into the U.S., while also providing a path to permanent residency and citizenship after 1 year. This act, which initially set a cap of 50,000 refugees, topped over 200,000 in its first year due to the aftermath of the Vietnam War. And since that time frame, the numbers have continued to fluctuate due to the president being able to set the annual ceiling. For example, we saw numbers ranging from 70,000 to 85,000 per year under President Obama, down to a low of 15,000 refugees under President Trump. This act remains the backbone of U.S. refugee policy, with over 3.5 million refugees resettled nationwide since 1980, including tens of thousands of Somalis. During the 1990s, the Somali Civil War erupted and over 1 million people were displaced after their government's collapse created a massive refugee crisis. Under the Refugee Act, the U.S. began admitting these Somalis in the early 90s. with about 55,000 coming into the U.S. from 1983 to 2004 alone. Many were resettled in Minnesota by organizations like Lutheran Social Services and Catholic Charities, which partnered with the federal government to bring them over. And Minnesota, which already had a strong history of welcoming refugees since the 70s.
My God, these people are. Hold up, let's rewind that back. They partnered with the federal government, huh? I bet they did.
2004 alone. Many were resettled in Minnesota by organizations like Lutheran Social Services and Catholic Charities, which partnered with the federal government to bring them over. And Minnesota, which already had a strong history.
Catholic Charities and I guess Lutheran Social Services, I'm guessing all of that within Catholicism, was able to partner with the government to bring these people over here since the 80s. And this is what I was talking about when we used to talk about the Africans really coming into the country. That shit wasn't until the 80s, the 1990s, where we start seeing this huge influx of an African presence in this nation. That's mind-blowing.
Of welcoming refugees since the 70s, was a hotspot for affordable housing, job opportunities, and of course, generous social services.
The International Health Clinic sets aside Mondays and Tuesdays to serve Minnesota's growing Somali population, most of whom are in the U.S. legally as refugees and qualify for various health insurance programs.
Secondary migration also played a part in growing the Somali population as Somalis from other states moved to join families and Somali communities, boosting the population from a few hundred in 1992 to tens of thousands by the 2000s. Immigration reform in the 90s also added more pathways for refugees, such as Temporary Protected Status or TPS, which has shielded Somalis from deportation since 1991 due to ongoing violence and instability in Somalia. This has recently also been extended for Somalis in the US well into 2026. Finally, the Diversity Visa Lottery, launched in 1990 and still active today, allocates up to 55,000 green cards annually to people from unrepresented countries, such as Somalia.
I won DV lottery bourses. DV lottery is like bourses, like you win like Ramadan every year.
Once resettled, refugees and immigrants can sponsor relatives under family reunification provisions of the Immigration and Nationality Act, creating a chain effect that not only continues to grow the populations, but also has fundamentally changed the culture of various American neighborhoods, just like Cedar Riverside.
So we've been out here for probably about 2 hours, and overall, everyone we've spoken to has been pretty friendly. It does seem like some of the locals are getting a little bit defensive, but it's okay. Like I said, so far, everyone's been pretty nice. However, one thing that I have noticed is none of the women will speak to us. They all seem very shy. Would you like to interview with us? No? Okay. And some of the locals explaining maybe why that is.
They've assimilated. Sometimes the women seem kind of not indoctrinized. They're definitely like almost a second rung on the ladder. They're kept to be quiet, and they you know what I mean?
I've been trying to talk to a couple of them. They seem pretty shy.
Yeah, that's what I mean. They're not real open with dropping out what's really on their mind. They do keep things. You can see it when you look into their eyes, but they won't talk to you. And it's somewhat, I think, what the culture is.
Some of them be cool, but most of the Somalis stick to Somalis. You know, I was asking a couple of Somalis about a store I was trying to run for the kids or whatever. You know, he told me, like, you know, if you're not Somali, the Somali community really ain't gonna mess with you like they'll mess with another Somali, you know?
People get freaked out by this neighborhood. When I grew up, there was a lot more violence. There was a lot of stabbings. There was a lot more shootings.
A lot of the critiques online are people saying that the Somalis don't assimilate, that it's an entirely different culture. What's your viewpoint on that as somebody who lives here?
Well, this neighborhood has a lot of history, and there's been like layers and layers of different cultures. Like most Somali people came to this neighborhood in 95 through 97. Before that, you had a big wave of Oromo, Eritrean, and Amharic people from Ethiopia. Before that, it was Hmong and Vietnamese people who got over by the U.S. government. But that's how it goes. Same with a lot of Somali people, actually. So there's a lot of layers of history and a lot of people that kind of integrated into the subcultural world, which Somali people as a community don't integrate. There's a lot of like structures of like the clan. There's a lot of structures of community that persist, which also leads to a lot of people getting taken care of, Somali people specifically getting taken care of in a way that they wouldn't if they were assimilated. You go to that cafe, you go to any Somali cafe around here, and instead of a tip jar, they got the community fund jar for a family that's broke to send money back home. There is a lot of people who don't assimilate, but that it is what it is, you know, and it's like there's nothing wrong with that.
I would say there was a lot more younger people around and just more diversity. I mean, it's not trying to be racist, but it just really is Somalians everywhere. It's a lot cleaner, a lot less chaos. You weren't finding accidents, car accidents, and drug users everywhere and that kind of stuff.
Yeah, okay, so I've heard the second Minnesotan who was mentioned the driving thing, and yesterday we actually witnessed a car crash in this area. Is the driving a big problem?
It is a huge problem. Yeah, things used to be fairly orderly. You know, if something went wrong, the cops would show up. It's not like that anymore. It's kind of like you're left to fend for yourself unless the cops do happen to show up. I know there was a white pickup truck that was just parked like half on the curb and half in the street, and it was there for like a week or two. You never would have seen that kind of thing before. It might still be there. I haven't checked in recently, but just that kind of dilapidated, just negligent, you know, people just not caring about the area.
Really kind of a sad story tonight because we got two Minneapolis restaurants that have been city institutions here for decades. They're shutting their doors.
Now, I'm currently standing in front of Palmer's Bar because this bar has been here for 119 years, and they are set to close down in September after living through the Prohibition, outliving 2 world wars, and the Great Depression. They're going to be closing down because the owners state that not only is the current economic condition taking a toll on the bar, but also the culture surrounding drinking in this area has changed so substantially that they're losing $10,000 to $30,000 every single month.
Wow.
Now, this is not the only bar on this strip of land that is closed down, by the way. 3 other bars have closed down in the last 13 years, as well as an iconic punk rock venue. Now, that venue, which locals had previously stated was a staple in Minneapolis for up-and-coming punk rock bands, that closed down and has since been turned into an African restaurant. And this bar has been bought out by the mosque that is next door to it. It is the oldest Somali mosque in Minneapolis, by the way. They have bought this area, and they are now going to be combining it with their mosque and turning it into a community center.
But the growing population isn't the only way Minneapolis has changed. To give you an idea of how much the Somali and Muslim culture have influenced the city, back in 2019, Mayor of Minneapolis, Jacob Frey, declared that July 1st was Somali Culture Day.
Jacob Frey, Yarub!
And videos of the annual event regularly go viral as the Minneapolis mayor partakes in traditional Somali dances, waves the Somali flag, and chants "Long Live Somalia" in fluent Somali.
Somalia Hanulato! Somalia Hanulato! Somalia Hanulato!
Mayor Frey was also at the forefront of changing noise ordinance throughout Minneapolis to allow the Islamic call to prayer to be broadcasted 5 times a day, with the earliest...
Do you hear that? Oh my God, y'all. And if this continues to happen, and this is what I'm saying, it's interesting how it's so easy for other people to come over here and build their own communities, build their own things. But then when it's our turn, when we want to go and do it, there's always pushback around why we can't. I don't see why we can't, because they definitely are.
Call starting at around 3 a.m. The Minnesota state flag was also recently changed back in 2024 under the direction of current Minnesota Governor Tim Walz. And many Minnesotans...
So now they trying to change the city ordinance so that they can ring that goddamn bell 5 times a day. That's diabolical. Like, what's up with this mayor, Jacob Frey? He is not for the American people, especially not the people in Minnesota, because that is outrageous, Mr. Frey.
Immediately called out how similar it looked to none other than Somalia's flag.
Our current flag is problematic. I think we all know that. We've evolved into a...
Athens immediately called. The Minnesota state flag was also recently changed back in 2024 under the direction of current Minnesota Governor Tim Walz. And many Minnesotans...
Did y'all know this? Whoa! This diabolical here. Did y'all know that the flag, the Minnesota flag was changed to this? That's news to me. Ooh. Man. Stop it.
Immediately called out how similar it looked to none other than Somalia's flag.
Our current flag is problematic. I think we all know that. We've evolved into a more diverse state, and I think it's more reflective of that.
Representation of the Somali population has also made its way to both state and local politics, and back in 2018, Minnesota elected Ilhan Omar, the first Muslim Somali politician to Congress.
Assalamu alaikum. I stand here before you tonight as your Congresswoman-elect.
Omar, who is still currently serving as a congresswoman, has made waves for her progressive stance and consistent fight against what she states is white supremacist American culture.
We must begin the work of dismantling the whole system of oppression wherever we find it.
But recently, it's her consistent Somalia first stance and loyalty to her home country over the US that has been garnering attention across social media. But I am a Somali girl, a girl with your lineage that misses her country and wishes to live there and share with its people. I am very honored to have the chance that our president of Somalia, President Hassan Sheikh Mahmoud, let us give him a warm welcome, Minneapolis. The interests of Ilhan are not...
Okay, they showing off now. That's insane. So this is how all of that came to be. I'm glad that the way that they're putting this together. Wow. Yeah. We are in trouble. We are in trouble.
It's not the interest of Minnesota, nor is it the interest of the American people. The interest of Ilhan is that of the Somalian people and Somalia.
She's the first Somali immigrant to get elected, to Washington. So I feel it's great,
And Ilhan isn't the only Somali politician making waves. Omar Fateh, who recently secured and then lost the Democratic endorsement for mayor of Minneapolis, has also mirrored many of the same sentiments Ilhan Omar has regarding Somalia and the U.S.
Yeah. I understand that our Somali communities are all connected to each other here in Minnesota and back home. And I'm running to bridge that gap and unite all of us and represent all of us, because when we succeed here, we succeed everywhere.
Fateh and Omar are examples of the changing politics and demographic in Minnesota politics, and despite making up just 1% of the population within Minnesota, many have pointed out just how widespread the influence of the Somali community now stretches. The introduction of mosques throughout the state is another example of the changing area, and back in 1998, the first Somali mosque opened in the state, with only one other mosque open prior. Fast forward to 2025, and there are now at least 76 mosques throughout the state, with a significant number of them opened by Somalis. And while I was on the ground, a shocking story surrounding a local Somali mosque began garnering national headlines.
This is Savannah Hernandez standing in front of the Al Hassan Islamic Center in St. Paul, Minnesota. Now, I'm standing here because this mosque has made national headlines after they penned a letter of community support for a Somali immigrant who sexually assaulted a 12-year-old. Now, back in 2024, this perpetrator was charged after abducting a 12-year-old from her backyard, forcing her into his vehicle, and then sexually assaulting her. He has since been convicted of first-degree criminal sexual assault. Now, after being convicted, his family members were sending letters to the judge to ask the judge to consider his character when making that sentencing. And one of those letters came from the Al Hassan Islamic Center.
Wow. So these people also condone. Wow. 76 mosques in 2025. Where is they getting the money? Where's they getting this money from, family? Something ain't adding up here. Now the Minnesota flag looking like the Somali flag. Oh my God. It's interesting to see these people just fall in line with this. This is diabolical. Where the people in Minnesota at?
Was actually signed by their executive director, stating that he had to face cultural differences and the challenges of taking on a new culture. They also framed him as a family-oriented man who sends his money oftentimes back to his family members in Somalia. The judge actually gave him the lightest sentencing possible. He is only going to be serving 8 years in jail for this crime. He was sentenced to 12 years, but those last 4 years are going to be spent out of jail and on probation. By the way, going back to that point about the challenges of a different culture, this perpetrator has been in the United States of America since 2006. So he's been in the United States for 19 years. He was born in Somalia, but he has been here for almost 2 decades at this point. However, the culture coming into play when it comes to, as the Islamic Center put it, this situation, the situation, of course, being him sexually assaulting and abducting a 12-year-old girl.
While this story is not representative of the entire Muslim population, many of the Minnesotans I reached out to consistently stated that the difference in cultural practices and religion have led to difficulties within their state, with headlines surrounding Somali gangs, Somalis linked to statewide fraud cases, and the continued excuse of the challenges of a new culture becoming a more and more common occurrence throughout Minnesota. From the name Mohammed hitting the list of 100 most popular baby names in St. Paul, Minnesota, to the closure of a 119-year-old bar due to the changing culture and drinking habits, the growing African and Muslim population has continued to make its way throughout Minnesota, and due to modern-day U.S. immigration policy, looks like it has no plans of slowing down.
But it was about then, 2006, 2007, where I noticed that their presence was becoming very prominent. And then later we learned that I can't give you exact figures on what they're getting in terms of handouts and doles, but I know I was pretty staggered when I heard if it was either a single person or a couple, it was like $2,500 a month. And if it was a family with kids, they were getting an automatic like $4,500 a month in just handouts, and so when they kind of take over an area like this, it's not really that surprising. People like to say, oh, it's their ingenuity and their work ethic and stuff.
No,
it's not. It's handouts, and anybody can flourish with that kind of cushioning.
Fucking money a month. Whoa. Yeah, we in trouble. We in trouble. Big trouble. Big trouble. Y'all better know it. And y'all better understand it. We are in trouble. Shout out to you, old dude. Let's go.
Agent Jones leap.
I'm running for mayor. This Democratic socialist will probably be the next mayor of Minneapolis. And socialist Zoran Mondani is likely to be the next mayor of New York City.
We have to continue to elect more socialists, and we have to ensure that we are unapologetic about our socialism.
But they should be apologetic. Socialism always fails.
And so it is that in the heart of the American Midwest, where the rusting skeletons of factories, once symbolizing unyielding industry, pockets of demographic transformation are quietly reshaping the cultural landscape, inching toward Sharia-compliant majorities that challenge the foundational principles of our republic.
America, the American government, secularism, democracy, capitalism, these are cancers. Non-Muslims are tired of this cancer. They're tired of the American government. They're tired of democracy. They want to see a new way of life. And as Muslims, we have to understand that we have that new way of life.
Take Hamtramck, Michigan, that tiny enclave swallowed by Detroit's sprawl, where census data reveals almost 70% of its 28,000 residents now identify as Muslim, the first and only such city in the United States. It's an all-Muslim city council wielding unanimous power over decisions that echo foreign theocracies rather than the United States Constitution. Just across the line in Dearborn, Michigan, the beating heart of Arab America, over 54% of the 90,000 souls call themselves Muslim, a concentration so dense it accounts for more than half the city's fabric, with mosques towering over streets where calls to prayer mingle with the hum of Ford assembly lines, signaling a trajectory where Sharia's shadow lengthens with every immigrant wave. These aren't isolated anomalies, they're harbingers of a broader shift, fueled by relentless migration and higher birth rates, as Pew projections warn that America's Muslim population, already swelling to 4.5 million, will double to 8.1 million by 2050.
Hezbollah, bombed the embassy in Beirut, and including many Americans. So I just feel it's quite inappropriate.
You are an Islamophobe, and although you live here, I want you to know, as mayor, you are not welcome here. And the day you move out of the city will be the day that I launch a parade celebrating the fact that you moved out of the city.
Carving deeper enclaves in urban strongholds like Minneapolis, where Somali communities push the metro area's Muslim share toward a robust 2.5% to 3% statewide, with local densities in the Cedar Riverside neighborhood rivaling those overseas outposts of influence.
Mayor of Hamtramck, Michigan, Muslim. Mayor of Dearborn, Michigan, Muslim. Mayor of Richardson, Texas, Muslim. Vice President of the Minneapolis City Council, Muslim. U.S. House Representative, Muslim. U.S. House Representative, Muslim. U.S. House Representative, Muslim. New York City mayoral candidate, Muslim. Minneapolis mayor candidate, Muslim.
Yet, as these transformations unfold in the quiet corners of Michigan and Minnesota, the federal machinery stirs with countermeasures aimed at fortifying the ramparts against any encroachment of foreign legal shadows. Two Republican lawmakers thrust forth a bold congressional bill, a legislative dagger aimed straight at the heart of Sharia's insidious creep, barring.
My God. That's my only reaction, because I knew it was turned up there. But it is turned up. And it's like they just letting it happen. We do need to know what Trump think about this.
American courts from enforcing any judgment, decree, or arbitration decision rooted in Islamic law or any alien system that dares violate our sacred constitutional rights, a direct rebuke to the creeping normalization of parallel justice systems. And you may recall the Trump administration unleashed Executive Order 14161 on Inauguration Day, an ironclad edict resurrecting the specter of travel restrictions from terror-prone nations, explicitly designed to shield the homeland from the very ideological threats that Sharia embodies.
She's punished and she's stoned to death. And according to the Sharia, again, when it comes to women, there must be a hole dug in the earth, in the ground, and she must be covered up to the half of the body.
In the end, it's not about exclusion. It's about preservation that ensure Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof. John Bound reporting for Infowars.com.
This is a little piece of art, a really nice moment.
All right. So let's move right along. Let's listen to this. Let me make sure I got the volume.
Crazy statistics. Just in Minnesota, not anywhere in the world. I can just imagine a statistic in the world. Just within the metro area of Minnesota, there's about 30,000 single Somali mothers, single mothers, which is a ridiculous number. But at the same
a lot of you man will think this is a true statistic, but it's not a real statistic, because the single mothers that's registered in government, they're not actually single mother, you know. Nin bay haystaan, laakiin dowladda waxay sheegayaan, oh, anigu single baan ahay, nin ma haysto. What do you call it? I need support. So this is spousal support, man. Like, this is a hustle. A lot of Somali hoyas do is to get benefits. You understand? So waxa weeyaan, waxay sheegayaan dowladda, yo, I don't have a freaking no job, no nothing. Then guri bilaash bay ku siinayaan. So subsidizing housing. Aruurtaada lacag bay siinayaan. And then husbandkaaga ba shaqay. Adiguna hoos ba shaqaysanaysaa. Laakiin dowladda waxba ma sheegaysid. It's
I don't know if that's gonna be speaking Somali the whole damn time. Damn, cuz.
Brody here to remind you that every time you lie to somebody, you're taking away their choice. You're taking away the ability for them to make a decision that's good for themselves. And that's why I always lie to the people of the global minority and men.
Yeah.
Assalamu alaikum.
Ain't that brick lady the same one who was going off about getting hit in the damn face with a brick? But ultimately, I was trying to show that other video because there's things going around too that they over there scamming the government, saying that they're single moms and all of that, and getting benefits. Yeah, she keep on talking that shit. She gonna fuck around and get smacked with another brick. But y'all, I can't fathom this. They also said, where's my other thing at that I thought I had up here? They said Assata Shakur passed away. So it's a lot going on around that too. Hearing that she died and stuff like that. I know that was sad for a lot of people, and you know, hearing about that. But yeah, y'all. I mean, if anybody want to come up and comment on the Minnesota situation, you can feel free to do so. You know, I mean, I was supposed to hit on that yesterday, but we were so busy up in that American Indian business, man, just receipt after receipt about who the true people are, that, you know what I'm saying, I didn't even have time to even go over the Somali situation. So I wanted to go over that. I wanted to talk about Nas being able to get his casino pushed through in Queens, and it is one more thing I want to show y'all too. And I had just heard about this because for some reason it wasn't ringing bells around DC. Like it was on the news, but it wasn't ringing bells like it should have. So let me pull it up real quick, and then
Public Safety Agency. She pleaded guilty earlier this year to taking a $10,000 bribe, which she describes as, quote, a lapse in judgment.
And today, Dana McDaniel was sentenced to 16 weekends behind bars, more than 3 years on probation, and 6 months on house arrest. Our Washington, D.C. reporter Felicia Ashley is joining us live from the D.C. Bureau tonight.
Yeah, Felicia, you were in court today, and the judge said that government employees need to learn a lesson. What happened?
That's right. And he said that lesson is if you're a government employee and you get involved in these pay-to-play schemes, that there will be consequences. And today, Dana McDaniel felt some of those consequences. Now, today in court, we heard for the first time why she claimed she got involved in all of this. She said that she said no multiple times when she was propositioned with this bribe. She said she eventually said yes. She claimed that she fell upon financial issues, but she said from the jump, she knew it was wrong.
It's sad that someone like the confidential informant can have an influence on someone like Ms. McDaniel.
Cameras were not allowed as I sat in the sentencing for former 1C director Dana McDaniel. In court, McDaniel says she took the bribe out of panic and fear.
Obviously, Ms. McDaniel doesn't agree with the position that she sold herself for her position. Instead, it's our position that she was actually poached and that she found herself in a bad time and had a lapse of judgment and made a bad decision.
McDaniel's guilty plea, as well as Councilman Tran White's arrest, have caused heavy scrutiny of the validity of DC's violence interrupters. White is also facing a federal charge for an alleged bribe tied to McDaniel's former office. The office is responsible for violence prevention programs.
The violence interrupters have been under a microscope since essentially her arrest.
Now let's talk about 1 second, y'all. Let's talk about the violence interrupters, because I've always had an issue with the violence interrupters as well, because I felt as though it's a situation where a lot of the people that are calling themselves violence interrupters are the ones inciting violence in most cases. And I'm not sure if it's something that's really working. And I think that they're trying to make it seem like that this thing is a good idea, that this is working, and that this is something that they should continue to fund and put money behind. But the truth is, it's not really changing the condition of crime and kids who commit crime and what's going on in this city. So that was something I never ever agreed with, for real, like the violence interrupters thing. I'm guessing that their mind and their ideology behind it was finding people that was from these neighborhoods, finding people who were previously a part of gangs or previously did these things, you know what I'm saying, to be able to come in and try to change the mindset of some of the youngest who have taken on this gangster lifestyle or crime-ridden, crime-driven lifestyle, excuse me. So, yeah, I ain't with it.
And obviously another that has a trial in January. She mentioned that she didn't want what's happening right now to taint that work as it relates to violence directors and the work that Ms. McDaniel had a heavy hand in. What are your thoughts on where that stands now and even her future in continuing to do work in the community?
I think it's, again, there's no winners today, and this is very sad. And I think the worst part about this is those violence interrupters literally put their lives on the line, like police officers, but without the badges and the guns, that they've created alliances throughout the district with different gangs and communities and neighborhoods.
As part of her plea to the judge to lower her sentence, McDaniel shared that right now, as I'm speaking with you, she still works in the community with at-risk as well as special needs children, and said that at least 100 of them, as well as her daughter, rely on her. Now, in court, the judge said that he did not feel that McDaniel was completely honest with everything that she did and everything that she knew, but he did say that he felt that she did learn her lesson. Now, I will be back in that same federal courthouse in January, where a council member will now face his federal trial for a bribe connected to McDaniel's same former office. We're now reporting live from the DC Bureau. Felicia Ashley, 7 News.
Yeah, Felicia Ashley, cool too, because she actually reached out to me about what happened with me and my grandmother and them. So shout out to Felicia Ashley. She's cool. So anywho, I mean, now I know yesterday we touched on a little bit about what happened when a young lady from the DMV went over to Africa and ended up getting drugged and kidnapped. So we have a little bit more insight on that now. And I kind of want to get into that. And Cabo Goddess, whatever you got in the chat, I'll swipe it from the chat. But I kind of want to go back into that a little bit more. We could kind of discuss that as well. It's been so much going on and so much going on within this world, like that. Yes, I always want to promote and have people understand that our identity and who we are should be the top priority in everything. But it's just like, it's so much going on around us. So many different distractions, issues, whatever you want to call it. It's too much of that going on around us that we can't focus on the agenda at hand.
Please, God. Why was it taking a video of me in my dress, in my room, quiet, like silent? Someone starts knocking on my door. It's after 12, mind you. The only person that knows I'm in this room is the reception staff, and if they needed me, obviously they'd use the phone and call me.
I'm in a club in Tunisia, and I don't really give a fuck. I'm gonna give you the tale of my personal experience of what the fuck happened to me while being here. I've been here for 2 hours. I turned around, and one guy was videoing my ass. Not that I have one, not at all. I gave pancakes, pan fucking cakes. The man was videoing my ass. He had the phone propped up under mine and my friend's arse cheeks. We turned around at our table. The phone was there, only on us, on our absolute behind. This is the same guy that asked my friend to go home with him and has been annoying her the whole fucking night.
The last thing I remember being at the front desk. The next thing I remember is waking up in the back of a fucking car. I start freaking the fuck out. Like, I'm trying to get out. And once I get out, this guy, that shit is blurry. I thought the front desk, all that is blurry. I don't know what woke me up. I don't know what they gave me, what they did to me. I don't know. The last thing I remember is being at the lobby. So the guy, he get out the car. We're tussling. We fucking fighting. Like, I'm fucking fighting for my life. Like, I'm really like, all I can think about was my fucking kids. Like, man, I gotta get back home to my kids.
Fam, it's been a lot going on. There's a couple stories I wanted to bring to you guys' attention, but I wanted to put this one to the forefront. A lot of us love vacation, traveling outside the country. And in this video, we got to speak on a young woman who recently went to TikTok and all her other social medias, who personally I know from the DMV area, who decided to go out the country and unfortunately was kidnapped, beat up, bruised, 2 black eyes, you name it. Now, she's a fighter. And because of that, I believe, alongside having God on her side, was the reason she was able to escape. Today, we hear her story. We also visit this place and talk about the background. Because of this story, I decided to do some research to see if anyone else has similar stories. And let's just say, I'm noticing a scary pattern that I want to discuss to the family, not only for their sake, but for the people in the future who plan on visiting this place. I need us to all make sure we on point. Without wasting too much time on this intro, I want you guys to remember, I don't give you no angle. I just give you the story. So with that being said, make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. We'll jump right to it. Fam, meet Mika from the DMV area. She went to Friendly High School in Maryland, early 30s, and a young mother. Over the weekend, she visited a place called Tunisia with her friend, which is the northernmost country in Africa. Now, this is a place where the official language is Arabic, with French widely used in business and education. Many locals also speak some English and Italian. It's known for traditional crafts like carpets, pottery, and mosaics. It gained its independence on March 20 of 1956 from France. The religion is mostly Islam. The currency is called Tunisian dinar, TND. Now, the government is unitary, semi-presidential republic, which main power is centralized in the national central government, rather than divided between states like the U.S. Tunisia has local governors and councils, but they get their authority from central government, not independent power. The semi-presidential come from the combined features of both presidential and parliamentary systems. There is a president, head of state, and a prime minister, head of government. The president is elected by the people and usually controls foreign policy, defense, and national security, while the prime minister and the cabinet handle day-to-day governance. And just in case I went over your head, fam, just to break it down, the U.S. system is like having one boss who makes all executive decisions, which is the president. The Tunisian system is like having 2 bosses, one president handling security and international matters, and another, the prime minister, running the office day to day. If those 2 bosses don't get along, the whole workplace, which is the government in this case, can get messy. So now we know where we headed. Let's go back to Mika and her story. Over the weekend, her and her friend had took a direct flight to Tunis, which is around 11 hours, for about $800. They stayed at the Penthouse Suites Hotel and Apartments located in Ariana, Tunis, offering large apartment-style rooms with amenities like kitchens, living areas, and sometimes terraces. Guests often praise the spacious accommodations and sometimes friendly staff, though some reviews mention the need for renovations, or better yet, specific inconsistencies. The hotel features a pool, restaurants, and entertainment options like a bowling alley. You can stay there now for an average of $77 a day. But fam, as we continue this video, I want you guys to keep this hotel name in mind, because like I said, I did my own homework, and unfortunately, there's some alarming patterns with this hotel. But let's continue. September 20th, 2025, Saturday night, Mika decided to go to a local club.
This is Joy, and this is Joy. But Joy's life didn't always feel so.
I can't see wanting to visit here was insane,
She
Nanya.
decided to leave the club, but according to her, she decided to leave the hotel early. She went back to the hotel and went in her room, put her stuff down, and noticed she needed more toilet paper. She then walked to the front desk, and then suddenly, that's all she remembered. Then she wakes up inside of a car in the back seat, started screaming for help, managed to escape the car, and started fighting men before running as fast as she could in the woods. 2 black eyes, bruises all over her body, and not knowing what these men about to do or what they did prior to her waking up and blacking out. Check out her testimony.
Y'all look at my face. I cannot believe it. Like, they really tried to kidnap me in Africa. And if that shit happened to me, I know it happens to other people. And I just was blessed enough to get away. But all right, so when I came out here Friday. Friday night was cool. Saturday night we went out. I'm not a party person, so like an hour into the club, I'm like, I always do this, nothing new. I'm like, all right, I'm going to the hotel. It's hella taxis outside. It's a lot of people out there. So the taxi brings me back to the hotel. I come upstairs. I go to the front desk because I needed a key. My key, I don't know where my key was, but I went to the front desk to get a key. So they gave me a key. I come upstairs. Then I'm like, dang it, ain't no tissue. I go back downstairs. I go to the front desk. God, that is the last thing I remember, being at the front desk. The next thing I remember is waking up in the back of a car. I start freaking the fuck out. Like, I'm trying to get out. And once I get out, this guy, that shit is blurry. I thought the front desk, all that shit is blurry. I don't know what woke me up. I don't know what they gave me, what they did to me. I don't know. The last thing I remember is being at the lobby. So, the guy, he get out the car. We're tussling. We fucking fighting. Like, I'm fucking fighting for my life. Like, I'm really like, all I kept thinking about was my kids. Like, man, I gotta get back home to my kids. I'm really fighting for my life. Like, this nigga's punching me. Y'all can see, like, he's trying to telling me, shut up. I was not, like, giving up wasn't an option. Like, I really was fucking fighting for my life. So I managed to get away by the grace of God. I don't even know how I really got away. It's all woods. I just started running. I did not look back. I'm running fast as shit to where I could see cars and lights. I'm running fast as shit, but this shit is blurry. I don't know what they gave me or did to me. So once I get, I finally was able to wave somebody down and get some help. A taxi brought me back to the hotel, right? So, okay, y'all, I'm in the airport, so I'm going to keep talking about it, though, before I forget. So the taxi brings me back to the hotel. So I'm running there. I tell Queen, y'all, I'm with Queen, so just keep up with me. I tell Queen, I'm like, they took me, she telling me I'm yelling out shit, like, I was fighting for my life. What did you? And she like, you just was you was in distraught, like you was in shock. You was crying and all that stuff. So, she got back to, she asked in the hotel, y'all, the hotel would not show us no videos. They was not helping us. They did not call the police for me. They did not give a fuck. That's how I know the hotel has something to do with it. Because it just doesn't make sense. So, what they're saying, right? They're trying to say that I never came back to the hotel. Like, once out their words of their mouth, they said I got snatched from the club. For one, how the you know I was at the club? Two, if I got snatched at the club, where in the club I have this purse, I'm recording with this phone in the club, like we're having a ball. I got this purse on and I'm recording this phone. How the fuck did my stuff get back in the room if I never came back? He keep trying to say, y'all, it's just so much. It's just so much. But when I say I was fighting for my life, like, they did not expect for me to make it back to that hotel. I was never supposed to come back to that hotel, yo. I was never supposed to come back. I'm saying, once I'm back, everybody looking so crazy. Queen, go back downstairs. Nobody wants to talk to her. Nobody, we don't want to talk to you. They don't know, nobody know no English. And for y'all to keep telling me that I never came there after the club, yes, the fuck I did. Yes, I know I did. But if I didn't come back after the club, right? Or if I, you know what I'm saying? If I didn't come back after the club, why? How the fuck is my stuff in? And say if I didn't, you know what I'm saying? What they saying? If I didn't, if I got taken from the club, or if I willingly walked out of the hotel, you're gonna show me. You were so pressed to show me running in while it was light time, distraught. That's the only video they showed. But when I'm running in, I have no purse, I have no phone. You know why? Because my shit was upstairs. Because I was upstairs. Man, this shit is so stressful. I don't even know what to do, how to go about this, who to say nothing to. I don't know. I don't know. I did not come here like this. All of this right here is all over my body. Okay, y'all, and then it's just a lot of weird shit going on. Like, the manager decided her face was so badly battered by whoever did that shit. That's extreme. Extreme. And you right, Nanya. They need to keep their ass home. Keep your ass home. Yeah, she handled herself. She handled herself. I mean, and most girls from the DMV, man, I mean, to be honest, that's quite a normality. Girl, like the women here handle themselves. They don't allow, they don't allow that. So they'll fight with all they might. Remind me this happened Saturday night, Sunday morning. Once I got back to the hotel from escaping, I stayed in my room. I didn't want to go nowhere. I had booked a flight. You know, the next available flight was in the day. You think they came and checked on me? You think he asked? You know why the police showed up? Do y'all know why the police showed up? The police showed up because the hotel said Queen was being disruptive and, like, you know what I'm saying? Down there being too loud and shit, yelling at them, disrespecting them and shit. They never knew nothing I was talking about pertaining to me or nothing she was telling to me. I had to call the fucking embassy, the U.S. embassy. They came and they brought their own police officers. And then even the guys that was police that night kept telling Queen, oh, come with him. Go with him to make a report. Go with him to make a report. We showed the real police that the embassy run, and he said that's not one of our guys. What the, like, I cannot make this up. And then the manager, I got a picture of him, y'all. He telling me, oh, it was just, so Monday, we going downstairs to talk and shit. So he could show us the cameras. He tell me, can you just stay in the room? And she go, we like, no, we not, like, nobody going nowhere by themselves. Y'all jinxing. He asked me, he like, you got some sunglasses, or you like, can you cover up? Fuck no, I want everybody to see what the fuck, you know what I'm saying? Like, it happened here, from here. I know for a fact I was in here. Y'all keep trying to tell me I wasn't here. But how did my purse that I had at the club, which I'm on camera in the club with my phone in my purse. So then when I get back to the hotel, I don't have no phone, no purse. That's what they show me. I don't have no phone, no purse. I don't even have shoes on. But my shit's upstairs. Then he like, oh, this was an accident. What the fuck do you mean it was an accident? This is the craziest shit I've ever been in my life. I travel a lot. It's not my first time out the country. It's not my second time out the country. I travel a lot. And the hotel won't show all the videos. If y'all innocent, just show the videos. You were so supposed to show me, oh, this is when she came back in. That's what they try to do. Oh, this is when she came back in. After I got into all that, you know what I'm saying? No, the fuck, that's not when I came back in. Y'all didn't expect me to come back in. That shit crazy.
That was crazy. It's a blessing that Mika was able to still make it home. But she also posted another video. They were speaking Arabic. She asked for translation, and someone in the comments had wrote the following. The first guy said, first of all, this girl did not pay the taxi. No, this one, pointing at the girl, aka Mika. Even when she came back, she did not pay the taxi. So the guys took another taxi to the ATM machine and came back to pay their taxi and hers. Second guy, at what time did they come back from the taxi? Guy one, they came back at 4 a.m. Guy two, yes, that's what she said to you. Then you said 2 o'clock. Guy one, they came back angry at each other. And the guy was in his taxi. And the girl was in her taxi. Each of them in separate taxis. He said the same thing twice. Tell her that the boy is the one whose picture she showed us on Instagram. He said that to the guy two in front of. Guy two said, I don't want to bother her. I'm not the police. Normally, she doesn't have the right to do this kind of thing. She'll quiet down. We'll call the embassy. But then people in the comments also observed his facial expression after reading what he had to say in English. Check it out.
See, she has a purse. You see?
ديجا هذه ما خلصتش التاكسي.
Do you see she has a purse, right? You see that?
لا هذه حتى رجعت ما خلصتش التاكسي. رجعوا بعدين ما خلصتش التاكسي الولاد طلعوا لي هو مشى هز التاكسي للاخر الديستريبيوتور جبت خلص التاكسي نتاعو هو نتاع حسين نتاع هاي.
This is at 1 a.m. Like I said, that's about 1 a.m.
So go to 3. 1 a.m.
I'm saying that's the time. Okay.
Let's see. All the time. وقتاش رجعوا من بعد التاكسي؟ رجعوا ما حكيت لي 4 الصباح. هذيك اش قالت لك هي؟ وقتاش رجعوا؟ حط لي وقتاش رجعوا.
Go to 2.
حط 2. 2 o'clock.
They doing no soundbite. I was taking another way out. You know what I'm saying?
رجعوا متعاركين هو وحده في تاكسي وهي وحدها في تاكسي.
Coming in, right? Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Around like 2:50.
هي رجعت وحدها في التاكسي والراجل رجع وحده في التاكسي.
At 2:43, I was telling you when
كنا اللي وريتنا التصوير بتاعه في الانستغرام.
مش لاحق شيء
معين من اللي حصل معاه في راسي مش مهندس. وما مالش حق يشتري من كده. عم اشتري. اتكلم صغير او مكان.
Can you go to 3 o'clock? 3?
3.
Yeah. All right, right here.
Stop.
Leaving. Yes.
Now remember what I said, a repeating pattern? I was reading the comments on the Mika post. Someone said she had the same experience. A lot of them. But one woman had spoke about it around this time last year. And this is what she had to say.
Because I'm actually scared. Why was I taking a video of me in my dress, in my room, quiet, like silent? Someone starts knocking on my door. It's after 12, mind you. The only person that knows I'm in this room is the reception staff, and if they needed me, obviously they'd use the phone and call me. The person was knocking for about a good 5 or 10 minutes. I don't have a peephole, so I couldn't like look and see who it was. And they didn't like call and say security, or do you know what I mean? Obviously the door stopper's behind the door, and I've got like the what's it called? I've got that in there, and then I've got one on the glass as well. I've got these, and I've also got a heel next to me because you just never know. But yeah, no, honestly, I'm scared. And tonight's my last night, so I really need to sleep because I've got a flight tomorrow. Like, why the fuck? And the internet's down in the hotel. and the internet's down in the hotel. Like, and it's been down for 6.5 hours now. So I don't have no Wi-Fi. I'm fucking terrified. No, because I'm actually scared.
Fine. At the end of the day, we can't ignore the patterns. When we see multiple stories of Black women being targeted in the same place, whether it's harassment, attempted abductions, or worse, we got to stop asking why and make sure they straight. Travel should be about peace, culture, and experiences, not fear for your safety. So if you plan on going aboard, especially places with these repeated reports, please do your research, protect yourself, and make sure someone always knows your whereabouts. This is bigger than one story. It's about protecting our sisters and holding these places accountable. The crazy part is, these are only the stories that's being highlighted. What about the ones that's not? What about the ones that's unfortunately successful? I'm sending prayers to every woman who was affected by this story. I'm sending prayers to the ones that we just covered in this story. Fine, this was the story of a woman who, from the DMV area, decided to go on vacation. But unfortunately, during her stay, she was abducted, and God knows what, resulting in her having 2 black eyes and multiple bruises on her face and throughout her body. But most importantly, she's exposing a serious scandal within that hotel alone. Let me know how you guys feel about this one in the comments. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Until then, I'll catch you guys on the next one.
Introducing Samra Origins.
Yep. Y'all keep your ass from over there in Africa. Y'all keep your ass from over there. I'm telling you. So get into this, y'all. So Trump just signed an executive order that's pretty much going to allow the death penalty in Washington, D.C. I don't think the death penalty has been in Washington, D.C. since, let me check. The death penalty hasn't been in D.C. That hasn't been since 1981. So that's how long the death penalty hasn't been in D.C. It hasn't been in D.C. since 1981, and the last execution that took place in D.C. was 1957. So, and I'm thinking maybe now Trump is implementing this because of what has been taking place in D.C. in terms of crime.
Powerful deterrence we have to violent crime is the death penalty. As you said, your administration has taken bold, decisive steps to ensure that Washington, D.C. is once again a safe and secure city for its residents and all who visit. This is a presidential memorandum that directs your Attorney General and your U.S. Attorney for the District of Columbia, Judge Jeanine Pirro, to fully implement the death penalty here in Washington, D.C., where the evidence and facts of a case indicate that the death penalty should be used.
Okay, everybody understand? Death penalty in Washington. You kill somebody, or if you kill a police officer, law enforcement officer, death penalty. And hopefully there won't be that. So again, it's way down. I mean, we have had week after week after week where we haven't had a murder. I said that the other day in front of the president of Poland. The press was here, and I said, ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to announce that Washington, D.C. has not had a death in 4 weeks, a murder. And he looked at me and goes, is that good or bad? You know, he's saying, what kind of a place is this? But it's true for years. I mean, every week, essentially, somebody got killed or more than one. And this is a very safe city right now. We don't play games. And, you know, it's interesting. We took these careers out, career criminals. They call them careers. They left the word criminal out. But we took the careers out of here. And they're now brought back to their homes, or they're in jail, or they're in a jail in another country, and hopefully they're not coming back. And we have to maintain it. You can't just leave, and we have to maintain it. We've gotten along fairly well with the mayor. You know, she's getting a party that hates that the city's becoming safe. I mean, they're actually criticizing her because the city's becoming safe. But this is becoming this is right now a very, very safe city. This went from the most unsafe city in the country to the safest city in the country. There's no city any safer. That's a pretty big achievement.
And we really did it in 12 days. But if you add an extra week to it, that'd be nice. And I mean, you can go out to dinner. Restaurants are booming. You know, the restaurants were dead. They were dead. Even if you got to the restaurant, then somebody would come in and hold you up. You know, they'd hold up the whole restaurant. They go to Uber. Young ladies in the White House, they'd call Uber for protection. They'd run to the car because they were petrified to be from the entrance of their building to the car. Now they feel safe. They're in the car, and then the car gets hijacked while they're in the back of the car. This is what we were living in. We were living in hell. People that work in the White House, every time they see me, young women in particular, say, thank you, sir. And I don't even ask them about what. I know exactly. I made their lives. Now they're living in a beautiful, glamorous place called Washington, D.C. with no crime. And that's the way it should be. Okay? This is the death penalty for somebody that kills people in Washington, D.C. I think it's capital. It's a very interesting capital punishment, capital city. Right? It's capital. But this is our capital city. We can't allow that to happen. People come in from Iowa to look at the Lincoln Memorial and they end up getting killed. It doesn't happen anymore. It's not going to happen. And if it does happen, it's the death penalty for the person that did it. And this goes into effect. Right? Pam, is that right? Could you speak a little bit about that?
Yes, sir. Not only are we seeking it in Washington, D.C., but all over the country again. And as you saw very recently, we are now moving the inmates who were on death row, who Joe Biden or the auto pen commuted their sentences off of death row. We're moving them to supermax facilities where they will be treated like they're on death row for the rest of their lives, President Trump.
Okay, that's a big statement. Thank you very much. Okay. I see some of you shaking your heads very positively. Thank you, Brian. Thank you, fellas.
You said on the campaign trail.
I said it.
Yeah. The death penalty gives anybody illegal who killed a U.S. citizen
That's
or
right.
a police officer. So this just reinforces your campaign promise.
Right. And most people really like it. And Washington, again, it's going to serve as a beacon because you have to do it. These are bad people. When you look at that guy, the guy that killed the young lady in the train in North Carolina, that he'll be in trial for years. He'll get a good lawyer somewhere along the line. Somebody will come along, and what he did to that young lady, and she went into that train scared. You know, when she went in, the way she sat down, she was scared to just be there. She just wanted to not pay any attention to anybody, just not be noticed. And she had her throat slit. We don't want that in this country anymore. We're not going to have it in this country anymore.
Woo. Yeah, that's something there. That's something there. I mean, that is something there. That's all I'm going to say about it. It's unbelievable, actually. And now let me see. I'm trying to think how I'm going to end this live stream off. Ryan, stop bothering me about that Discord stuff. I said, all right, but you need to give me a second, okay? You are trying to bother me about it then.
No, this isn't the Discord. It's like to make your own like server.
Yeah, because I don't have a Microsoft account.
Oh, that makes sense.
All right.
It's not one of your email or your phone. I think you wanted your phone.
Ryan, please give me 5 minutes, okay? Thank you. Then we'll work on that. Give me a moment, okay? Anyway, y'all, my bad. This little girl's trying to create her own gaming server. Won't leave me alone about it. I'm telling you. Y'all know how babies can be. Well, she ain't no baby no more. To the point now she want to create her own server. I don't want her to really have her own server. Too much. So anyway, y'all, where was I at? So I want to end my live on. I ain't about to end it just yet. God, I forgot what I was about to play. Yeah. Oh yeah. Let me comment on that. Insert that video with Trump. Now, I don't know if everything that Trump in that video in particular that he's saying is factual in terms of not having a murder. I think someone was killed at the end of August. Somebody was fatally shot. I know crime may have went down a bit, but I know people were still getting shot and stuff like that. I think something had took place in Southeast at a high school, if I'm not mistaken. Somebody was shot. Yeah, so I don't know how to feel about the death penalty coming back to DC. That's just something they haven't done in eons. So this should be interesting to see how they gonna carry it out. Like I've never really had an opinion on the death penalty for anybody. Never. It's just never been my thing. You know what I mean? Like I try to stay out of certain things. I try to not have too much of an opinion on that type of stuff because I never believed in, being like the judge, jury, and executioner and trying to determine whether or not somebody deserves death and all of that. I mean, I'm guessing everything is dependent upon the crime and whence was committed or whatever that crime is. You know what I'm saying? You just got to know your part, man, and know that everybody not going to be having that. There's a video that I was looking for briefly that I kind of wanted to show because they highlight that last execution that took place in DC. I believe it was a so-called black little boy who was put on death row in DC. I think that was the last time. Let's see if I could find it. Yeah. Oh no, it wasn't a little boy. All right, hang on. I'm about to show it to y'all. It's only 10 minutes, so we'll talk about that since we're on the subject of the death penalty. And then I guess I'll call it a day.
Picture this. You've been sentenced to death. The weapon used to take your life is a raggedy wooden chair, the electric chair. Maybe you've been on standby for years hoping to get an appeal, but nothing comes through. Still, your lawyer remains hopeful. Your family is hopeful, and even you remain optimistic. But on this day, your number is called. They come to remove you from your cell. The walk from the cell to the room where they plan to take your life may be the scariest part for some inmates. Either way, they shave your head, strap you to the chair with belts that cross your chest, arms, and legs. A metal plate is attached to the scalp and forehead over a wet sponge. They treat it like a legitimate business, all professional. Then you got some reporters, family members, and others watching from the other side. There's a phone nearby in case a judge order a stay of execution. But today it don't ring. Then they blindfold you. Your heart is pumping. The warden note the time and signals the executioner. He pulls the handle that first sends a jolt between 500 and 2,000 volts through your body for 30 long seconds. After the commotion, the body settles. A doctor waits a few seconds for your body to cool down and then check to see if your heart is still beating. If it is, another jolt, 500 to 2,000 volts. This will continue until the prisoner is no longer alive. The tissues swell, and then you got defecation, urination, sometimes even the eyes pop out and hang by the cheek. Smoke rise. For a long time, they thought this was more humane than a hanging. This is Robert Eugene Carter, the last man sentenced to death and executed in D.C. by court order. So this is 1523 P Street. This is the last address of Robert Carter. Robert lived at 1523 P Street Northwest in the 1950s. He was just 24 years old with a pregnant wife and 2 children. Never been arrested and previously held a job as a laborer. But by July of 1953, he had been out of work for about a month, and the family was struggling. And according to his own words, he had been searching for work. And one of his friends, an electrician named Thomas Lowry, who lived on Varnum Street, confirmed that Robert was trying to find work at this point. Having a tough break, he then decided to do something that would seal his fate. On July 11th, 1953, Robert Carter left home with a pistol and walked a block away to a place called the Jim's Cleaners to rob the joint for money. At 1637 P Street, Robert walked into the cleaners. The manager was there. So Robert asked for a pair of pants, and after the store manager asked his name, he gave the name Jay Carter and then hit him with the butt of the gun. The manager fell to the floor. He was dazed. So Robert grabbed the cash out the register, which was $54, and then he left. But moments later, the store manager rushed out the door yelling, "Help!" And an off-duty cop named George Castles was in the area helping a friend move, who was also an off-duty cop. So he rushed over to the manager, who told him what happened. And this where things really changed for Robert. It was 1637. Wow. Are you serious? It's a CVS now? Let me take a step back. But yeah, it's a CVS now, man. At first, he was looking at robbery, assault, and maybe even a weapons charge, depending on the laws of that time. But now Officer George Castle started sprinting in the direction of him, almost catching up to him, yelling, "Stop, police." And so Robert apparently turned towards him with his gun aimed at him and fired a shot at Castles. The bullet tore into his right arm, traveling through the chest, piercing his liver, intestines, and according to the Washington Post, it settled in his right kidney. Robert looked back to see Castles fall, but then kept on running towards his house. Once he made it back to his house, of course his wife was there wondering what type of trouble he was in, and he told her what happened. Changed clothes, took out the $54 that he robbed, peeled off $2 for himself, stuck the 52 in a box where he and his wife kept the money. He left, got a cab, made his way to his mom's house, and then his friend Lowry. Meanwhile, after Robert shot George, the off-duty cop, his partner Joe Bertie made it over to him in the police car because they both were chasing Robert originally, but Joe stopped and got the police cruiser. So by the time he made it back to where Castles was, Robert was already gone, and Castles was laying on the ground bleeding. They locked the area down, going door to door looking for Robert. By the time Castles made it to the hospital, Robert was already a wanted man. And remember, the name he gave in the cleaners was Jay Carter, so they basically had his real last name. And soon they made their way to his door, 1523 P Street. And just that quick, they put it together. His wife answered the door. Her name was Miss Ruby Lee Carter. So they took her to the station for questioning and got all the locations, like his mom's address, his friend's house, Thomas Lowry. And at the time, Castles was still alive. All she knew was that he shot someone and robbed another man. Now, Robert stayed on the move, stopping at his mother's house, linking with Lowry, but the police ended up catching him walking into his friend's house at 749 Varnum Street Northwest. They arrested Robert and Lowry, who had no clue whatsoever what Robert had done. Eventually, they let the friend go, but Robert was booked. And sometime after his arrest, about 25 hours after he shot the cop, Castles died in the hospital about 6:30. They couldn't stop the blood. So from that moment, it was just a matter of time for Robert. So DC at the time, back in the 1950s, had a mandatory death penalty for murder, a law that wouldn't change until 1962. And as far as the US overall, there have been 4 types of executions used: hanging, electrocution, the gas chamber, and the firing squad. In DC, only 2 of those methods have ever been used, which are hanging and electrocution. So let's highlight a few notable cases, man. We got James McGurk was the first man to get executed damn near immediately after the founding of the city for murdering his wife. He was hanged on October 28th, 1802. Then we got Mary Surratt. She was the first and only female executed by the government for her role in the President Lincoln's assassination. She was hanged. Then in 1942, which the case around these guys were not technically a local thing, but since they were executed in DC, we're going to mention them also. But you had these German saboteurs. 6 of them secretly entered the US under Hitler's orders, and their job was to infiltrate and destroy American resources like industrial plants, bridges, and railroads. All were captured eventually. And out of the 8 guys, 6 of them were executed in DC by the electric chair. DC was the last jurisdiction in the US with a mandatory death sentence for first-degree murders. And Robert Carter would be the last man, executed just 5 years before the mandatory death sentence for capital murder was abolished, signed by JFK March 22nd, 1962. The Supreme Court would go on to abolish the death penalty in 1972. Robert walked to his death April 26, 1957. He didn't put up a fight. Once he was arrested and pointed out in the lineup, he came clean, told law enforcement what happened, and said he was sorry he did it. So later on, man, days before he sat in that chair, they let him see his mother, wife, and 3 kids. One of those kids was his 4-year-old son who was born while he was in jail. And the jury had asked for mercy, which was denied, and Robert tried to appeal too. All of that was shot down. So on the day he was executed, Robert Carter calmly walked the 15 feet from his cell at the old DC jail to the death chamber, saying a prayer to himself with a religious medal around his neck given by the prison chapel. He ain't put up a fight at all, for real. He understood what took place. He made his peace. So I'm going to say rest in peace to Sam Castles and rest in peace to Robert Eugene Carter. I believe, man, desperate times made him do what he did. He was married with children, no prior charges, and worked as a laborer. Been out of work for a month, but far from gangster or a street dude. I believe he was trying to do the right thing, but it just goes to show how if you get off track, one mistake can cause a whole chain of events that may not work out in your favor.
So much took place during the crack epidemic in DC. The good, the bad, and the ugly. No one could predict how bad it would get. By the mid-90s, the homicide rate decreased, but bodies were still falling. In 1996, law enforcement started building a case against a crew on the South Side. The 1-5 mob.
It's going to get dark on the next one. 1996.
1996. My God! 1996.
Stay tuned for that video.
That's crazy because on Tuesday we were just talking about the 96 blizzard in DC. Because I remember that blizzard. I remember it. I agree, Bad Saint. That's why I said, like, I don't care who you is, you know what I'm saying? Like it's a lot of things I agree with that Trump doing, and there's a lot of things I don't agree with, you know what I'm saying? So I mean, we'll see. We'll see. You know what I'm saying? I thought that'd be a good way to kind of round it off and it's kind of what in the world? There I go. just kind of ended off like that. You know what I'm saying? I know Copper God is dropping gems in the daggone chat for me, but shoot, I'll be up here for another 3 or 4 hours. And I ain't really trying to be today. So, you know, maybe I'll come back through Sunday or whatever, like, because it is some other stuff I got going on. You know, there was a debate that I was trying to, that I do kind of have lined up, but I kind of want to work the kinks out around what that debate is going to be, so we can kind of really make sure that it's within my standard of knowledge and things that I want to touch on. So, you know, I'll get back to y'all on that. But I mean, I did put the link in the chat. Nobody hit the link, so it's all good. I mean, I don't know, put a 1 in the chat. If y'all want me to stay for an extra 30 minutes, I'll go ahead and stay. But shit, if not, you know what I'm saying? If y'all enjoying the stream, let me know. Because if y'all enjoying it, then I'll go ahead and, you know, see what else I could pull up and really go through. More history, more, you know, things like that. I mean, because yesterday was pretty much American Indian business. Today it is too, but it was really American Indian business yesterday. Let me see if I could find. You know, there was a lot of talk too going on. Like some people I was hollering at. No, I don't know her. You know, I know who she is though, the attorney, right? The attorney, right? I don't know her. I know who she is though. Like I don't know her personally or anything. I don't know. I mean, she's in Baltimore, I believe. So usually, you know, those type of politics in the surrounding areas, yeah, usually don't be my lane. Like I know some of them people, but not really a lot of those people, you know.
Witnessing anything like that, to have a democracy, a beacon of hope for the world to now be turned into one of the coming out of our country. I mean, I grew up in a dictatorship. And I don't even remember ever witnessing anything like that. To have a democracy, a beacon of hope for the world to now be turned into one of the worst countries where the military are in our streets without any regard for people's constitutional rights, while our president is spending millions of dollars propping himself up like a failed dictator with a military parade. It is really shocking, and it should be a wake-up call for all Americans to say this is not the country we were born in. This is not the country we believe in. This is not the country our founding fathers imagined. And this is not the country that is supported by our Constitution, our ideals, our values. And we should all collectively be out in the streets rejecting what is taking place this week.
First of all, why is she even in charge of anything? Why is you a representative at all? That's some really nasty work what's going down in Minnesota, for real. That is some nasty, nasty work. Just nasty. All that little shooting and stuff be blowing me. I don't like when you do that.
Wayne Perry, Making a Murderer, Part 1. There are quite a few videos on YouTube that cover the Wayne Perry story, but I noticed that none of them actually spends time analyzing and breaking down his childhood, as well as the moment when Wayne transformed into the hitman that we all learned about. So with this video, I wanted to examine and cover as much information on the young Wayne as possible, visiting his childhood neighborhood and a few other spots he roamed while painting a clear picture as we go. Before doing this video, I swept through every court document pertaining to Wayne Perry that was made public. I searched all the information that was available through Google, as well as reading the book on his life written by Seth Ferranti. In fact, I read it twice for obvious reasons. I'm doing the video. I became so into the case surrounding Wayne, almost in a monomaniacal manner, straight up. Some of the scenes, meaning the murder scenes, found its way into my dreams. More importantly, it made me look at life completely different. But I tell you this, I understand how some actors carry certain roles with them for a while. After living the characters, drowning in those scripts and acting out parts, in order to understand something, sometimes you have to strip yourself of everything you know and do and dive in completely. But this ain't no movie, and Wayne Perry is a real person, a very, very complex person, nevertheless, real. The area where Wayne Perry grew up, he lived on L Street as a kid. L Street Southwest, right here. This is where Wayne grew up at. But yeah, this is it, man. WP's old stomping ground. All up here. Look like they had turned it all down and boarding it up now. That's basically the recreation center right here. Open football field. Public Housing Authority, District of Columbia Housing Authority. Got the people out there. It's a football team just practicing. I even walk through this way. Man, I think people still live in some of these places right here. So let's give a quick little backstory on Wayne's family. Like most blacks from DC and other cities, they were a product of Southern roots, coming from Georgia. Wayne and his siblings were some of the first in his family tree to actually grow up in DC. You see, the Great Migration came after World War II, And by 1957, black folks were a majority in DC, making the city the first black majority city in the country, later nicknamed Chocolate City. Wayne Perry and his family were a part of the second wave of Southern folks moving into the city. As with most people at that time, the reasons for leaving their hometown were, of course, to escape racism and hopes of a better life in general. You got the Great Migration. Wayne Perry was born in '62, just 5 years later. Why do this matter? Because when you are analyzing someone, you need to know the entire background, the influence, and the landscape, because it all tie in and contribute, defining who we are, or in Wayne's case, who we become. One of the first questions a doctor asks when trying to diagnose someone is about their family history and habits. The more you learn, the more you understand, and the easier it is to pinpoint solutions. So since Wayne was born in '62, that means he was 6 years old when Dr. King died, a time period when blacks were fighting for equality. We had more unity, and we were very, very religious. Most blacks went to church during this period. This may be the most peaceful, non-threatening portion of Wayne's childhood from a personal standpoint, due to being so young, having a father, and being preoccupied with sports in school early on. One of the advantages that Wayne had that probably shaped him to become a leader in the streets was his back and forth summers he spent in Georgia around older, wiser family members, and also having a father. Most kids in low-income communities only get a chance to see the neighborhood they come from. Rarely do they see the fathers in the house. And this was well after the Lyndon B. Johnson's Great Society, which I won't get into, but I'll quickly explain for those who may not know what the Great Society is. The Great Society was policies created by Lyndon B. Johnson to specifically help black households, which was welfare, but they made it where black fathers could not be present if mothers received any help, which resulted in women feeling like they can have however many babies and not have to worry because the new daddy would be government assistance. And what started out as a good idea potentially helped ruin the black household, and by the 70s, the effects was quite evident. Even today, 70% of black children are being raised by single mothers, some of them even glorified as being strong and independent. But that's another story, maybe a good topic for another video. Moving along, the transition in Wayne Perry becoming the vicious man really started in the early 70s. The contributing factors were, of course, poverty, and where there's poverty, there's crime. Crack wasn't around yet. The major drugs on the streets was heroin and cocaine. In the 203 community in Southwest, you had all types of people roaming the streets: junkies, hustlers, murderers, prostitutes, and of course, working folks. Wayne was only 10 years old at this time and very aware of his surroundings, becoming a sponge to the streets as he began to indulge. Wayne learned wisdom from his elders, logic from his father, patience from his southern roots, and his murderous ways from guys like Locke, who was like a big brother to Wayne. Wayne would go on to become militant, going above and beyond a typical murderer, but that's later on in his street run. By age 11 and 12, all of the qualities that Wayne obtained served a purpose and made him stand out from most young guys. Locke, as I mentioned earlier, was Wayne's mentor, and Locke was a straight-up savage himself. He and other older guys took a liking to young Wayne, but it was Locke that gave Wayne a nickname, Silk. By this time, Wayne was fully entrenched in the life. He was not only watching the backs of older hustlers doing their thing uptown in areas, which we will go and visit later, but he also ran his own crew of younger guys on the streets of Southwest. Now, you may be wondering, where was his father doing all of this? Information on his mother is not known, so where was his dad? Did he know of Wayne's street ties? How was an 11 or 12-year-old able to do so much without their parents stepping in? Well, there's no book on parenting. You learn as you go, and sometimes as a parent, when you are hit with certain facts about your child, you try to lecture them, advise them, and sometimes you even get frustrated and retreat when you feel there's no turning back. No parent is perfect. Some have their own demons and struggles to manage. Some parents don't realize their child is gone, lost to the streets until it's too late. So you go with the wind and let Mother Nature run its course, while keeping your fingers crossed that after the storm, the foundation will still be intact. Oh, this is 7:15. I got to turn down here because I'm gonna have to get out somewhere. Damn. The Howard Theater. I gotta get that corner shot real quick. So right here, that's the infamous Howard Theater. For all you guys who not from the area, y'all know that when y'all see it. This is the 7 T area right here. I want to get a shot. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna show the old 7 T, and I'm gonna show y'all the new 7 T. You can see it side by side of the signs and everything. It's completely different. You even look at that sign right there where it say Chuck Brown Way. So Wayne Perry was down here watching older guys' backs. And keep in mind, he was only like 12, 13 years old, looking out after dudes who was like 19, 20, 21 years old, right here in this area, right here. And it's completely different. If you look around, look at it. So I'm gonna show what it looked like back in the 70s when he was doing his thing. It's completely different now. Some of it's still the same, but they changed and they added that little Chuck Brown Way right there. Y'all see it? So it's hard to believe that he was out here just roaming, looking after them older people like that, man. Like, how can a man be so advanced at 12, 13 years old doing everything that he was doing? Only thing I can chuck it up to, well, you'll see the video, so you'll know exactly all of the things that he was involved in and how it happened and all of that. But yeah, this was the area, 7th and T. And the old photo that I have, or that I'm gonna show, you'll see like this whole area, this is a Wells Fargo. This train was like broken down completely. Like, I don't even know what type of building it was at first, but it was just dog completely. And then now it just look a whole lot more liver, a whole lot more brighter. There are many young kids, 11 and 12, who are lost to the streets. The shoulda, coulda, woulda theory is easy to mention when you are not in the shoes of the parents.
Exactly like he said. But he was 14 years old, and he was running a little group of hooligans, I guess is as good a term as any, who were stealing purses and wallets from, he called them old ladies who were government employees around Southwest D.C. And he would take their wallets and their purses and give the credit cards and the identification information to his cousin, who was, it sounded to me, and I verified it later when I did a criminal check on his cousin, was involved in check boosting or fraudulent ID stuff and busting phony credit cards and all that kind of thing. He was doing all sorts of scams. Perry said that I was supposed to just stay there with the guy so that my cousin could go off and get him, develop an alibi. And then I was supposed to ask the guy to buy me an ice cream or something like that, just to get him walking away from the house, and I could shoot him anywhere I wanted to along that route. And that was the plan. And Perry followed the plan, right away. And he said he walked with the guy down to this little mom and pop grocery store in the neighborhood and watched him walk into the basement. And as soon as his head got at the level that he could see, just nothing but the back of his head, he pulled the gun out and emptied it into the guy's head.
The year is now 1974. Wayne Perry, aka Silk, is only 12 years old. He is now equipped with all of the mechanics to make himself a murderer, calculated and full of heart. This is the year that alters the course of his life for good. This is the first time Wayne killed someone. His first order coming from a cousin of his who wanted his partner dead. The deal was Wayne get to keep the gun, which was a revolver. This was to take place in the Woodridge area off Rhode Island Avenue. His adrenaline was rushing, yet he was focused on the task and seeing it through. Walking slightly behind his target as they head towards a mom and pop store on the avenue. Wayne clutched the revolver that's tucked away in his pocket. His target began to walk down the stairs. Wayne got closer and closer, almost perfectly in stride with the target. And just like a lion hunting his prey, Wayne attacked, pulling out the revolver and pointing it at the back of the guy's head and then squeezed the trigger. Target down. Wayne Silk Perry, Making a Murderer, Part 1.
Woo! Every time I listen to the story around Wayne Perry, it always get my little blood boiling. It always get me kind of like in that suspicious mode, like that kind of lurie mode. Like, just imagine being freaking 12 years old and that's the type of life you live in. I don't know. I pray for my daughter every day, like just in terms of just asking for, not from God, but just from the universe and the ancestors, kind of just for safety and protection over her mind and spirit. And that's why I try to do my best to make sure that I'm guiding her correctly and in the right direction, because I don't ever want my child to be subjected to any of the pitfalls that a lot of these kids are subjected to, unfortunately, at a young age. And then they're doing it at a young age. So when they grow up, it's like second nature to be doing some of the things that they're doing. Even now in present day DC, we see a lot of that going on. We see a lot of behavior around young kids committing crimes, being violent, being vicious. And it's all for what? Because meanwhile, the Somalis taking over Minnesota. Shoot, I mean, I done seen places where a lot of these Africans are taking over in this area in DC as well. And, I just think we got bigger fish to fry. We got to focus on other things, you know what I'm saying? And, I just think that us as a people, we don't have one projection. Like, we're all over the place. And that's kind of what got to stop. So, anywho, probably tomorrow, or I don't know, maybe Monday or something, I'll come on back with some American Indian business, read some literature, things like that. Sharice, I know you're schooling. If you ever did with Lincoln, got another little cuz professor over there, communications production tenured. Oh, period. What's up, reclassified Black Wild Indian? I ain't seen you in a long time. It's good to have you in the chat, family. It's been a brick since you've been hanging. So just kind of like to recap everything. We talked about the Somali takeover in Minnesota. We spoke about death penalty coming to DC. We spoke about, what else was it that we spoke about? We spoke about Freedom, Georgia. We talked about Nas being able to get approved to open up his casino in Queens, New York. We talked about, what else did we talk about? I think that was really everything. Yeah, and then obviously Wayne Perry. We talked about the young lady from DC, Dana McDaniels, getting 16 weekends in jail. I showed some clips of Dr. Claude Anderson talking about the Black wealth disparity and being a permanent underclass by 2015. So we talked about a lot today, and I'm happy that we were able to, get a lot done and speak about a lot and talk about a lot of different things. So on that note, it's Friday, so I'm out of here. Y'all stay safe.